And let them into the meeting.
Prayers healed the little girl from blindness, just
No,
like
someone.
the scriptures. And this caused many to believe in his intercessory power and the power of God. Judge Asterius was so humble that he converted and obeyed Valentine's request that he turn away from paganism.
I have Bob's iPad here.
He broke all the idols around his house and he fasted for 3 days prior to becoming.
I'm gonna put him in the waiting room. And again.
Thank you very much.
Waiting for him to show up. Okay. Okay, everyone, I think people can hear me. Hello, this is Chuck Tirone, Conservation Administrator pursuant to state law, state legislation superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law. General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20 relating to COVID-19 emergency, the February 14th, 2024 public meeting of the Reading Conservation Commission shall be conducted in a hybrid format consistent with Chapter 2 of the Act of 2023, which further extends certain COVID-19 measures regarding remote participation in public meetings until March 31st, 2025. This meeting shall instead be held in person and virtually using Zoom. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, and Walter, remind me of that as soon as I'm finished. And all material for this meeting are available in the following chat, which I will put in the chat as soon as I'm finished with this script. And Martha Moore, the Conservation Chair, will facilitate this meeting. Please note there will be a public comment period at each hearing. Each vote taken during tonight's meeting will be conducted by roll call. We'll begin with a roll call attendance. Martha, can you please take that attendance and review the agenda?
Okay, I'm going to start with the people on Zoom. Please state your name when I call you. Walter.
Walter Talbot, member present.
Bill.
Bill McCants, member present.
Tony.
Tony Ronalakis, member present.
Andy.
Andy Driven, member present.
Brian.
Brian Bowe, vice chair present.
And Martha Moore, chair present. And that will be our voting order when we vote on hearings. Our agenda starts with a proposal for an Eagle Scout project in Bear Meadow. After that, we do not need to do anything about Zero Small Lane. That's already been continued to May 22nd. Then we have Zero Annette Lane, 252 to 262 Main Street and 10 Pinevale Ave, 246 to 248 Walnut Street, any old new business and discussion items, including a violation. And we have 2 sets of minutes to approve tonight. And that's about it.
Are we recording?
Are we recording?
Thank you. Go to that right now.
All right, and we're going to start this meeting at, that clock says 7:10. My phone says 7:06.
Okay, I'm looking for the recording button.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so we're going to start the meeting at 7:06. I do not see RCTV up there. Do you have them?
They're not in the,
They're not filming right now.
they're here.
They are. Okay, good. Okay. So can we start with our Eagle Scout project?
You sure can.
All right. Jack Nelson, do you want to tell us about your project?
Sure. So my name's Jack Nelson. I'm a senior at RMHS and I'm an Eagle Scout candidate out of Troop 702 in Reading. My project is going to be to replace the South Bridge at Bear Meadow Creek. And how I'm gonna do that is by installing two 10-foot sections, a 7-foot section in the middle, and two ramps on each end that will all be assembled in the floors.
And Chuck, do you want to put up the pictures he?
I'm searching
Try.
as fast as I can. There they are. Does that work for everyone? See if it comes up.
And
Right again?
I believe that you said that this is a continuation of somebody else's boardwalk, so we're gonna have get all the sections in that area replaced by this time?
So I wouldn't call it a continuation. It is a completely separate bridge. However, it is in the same area and the same process. It's gonna be done building the bridge. If you wanna pull up this paper. This is basically what my bridge design is gonna be. You'll see it up there. It's gonna be built out of 4x4 sleepers and 4x4 stringers, and then we're gonna have get the name, but then we'll have the required treads for stepping, and then that's what we'll have. And if you want to take a look at the 7-foot section, and if you want to look at the picture of the bar, if you want to pull up the long one. Yeah, you'll see that in the middle there, that there's a healthy living bog right there. So how I'm gonna work around that is by putting in a separate 7-foot section that will have one end of the sleeper removed. That'll allow the wood to lay directly on. And as you'll see in the picture, there's a bit of a slant, or a large slant where it hits the bog. So that's what we're hoping to minimize by removing one of the sleepers in that section. So this on the screen is basically a outline of what it looks like. You'll see the 10-foot, 7-foot, and 10-foot sections. There'll be the 2.5-foot ramps on the end. That'll make it 32 feet in total. You'll see my design for the ramp. It's very simple. We're just gonna put 2x8s together. That'll make it a 4x8, and then we'll cut it down to the correct angle so that we'll have a nice, not too steep incline going on to the bridge to make it ADA accessible.
Is that it?
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of expecting some questions or some,
Okay.
anything. that
Right.
needs to be-
Are there members of the commission that have questions for Jack? Right.
Hi, Jack. So my first question is, how long do you expect this build out to take?
This building is really gonna be done 2 separate days. They're gonna be a short day of cutting the wood to the correct length. I'm basically gonna be buying a bunch of 10-foot 4x4s and 8-foot 4x4s with some exceptions for the ramps. Then that'll all be cut on its own at a Scout Dad's shop or someone's driveway, depending on if we have the right tools. And then all the assembly will be done in the forest. It shouldn't take too long. It's a lot of simple stuff, lining it up and drilling it in.
Are you gonna leave the materials before you build it?
Well, I'm probably gonna, store it at my house or something.
Okay, so it's not gonna be.
No, nothing's gonna
At
be,
the site.
nothing's gonna be in the forest until the day that we build, when we'll transport it all in.
Okay, and what are you gonna do with material that you're taking up?
So the bridge that's there, that's gonna be just sort of ripped out, carried out, and then disposed of in a dumpster that we have access to through one of the Scout Dads. None of that wood's gonna be reused or anything like that. It's really old, rotted, and slippery, and pretty much just very unsafe.
And I will say, not on you, because previous projects, the material isn't always carried out immediately. So I'd like you to make sure that happens.
Yeah, it will.
Back to you.
Anybody else? Walter has his hand up.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Can we go to the picture which shows the little ramp going up to the work you're gonna do? Yes, okay. Mechanically speaking, you're tapering that ramp off to 0 on the right-hand side, which is gonna weaken it. Unless that's the standard procedure for bridges in Reading, may I recommend that that last right-hand piece not be installed, instead have it cut, so you end up, instead of a triangle, with a trapezoid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. All these drawings, this is very basic proposal outlining. I've yet to get, the exact science of the measures and everything like that, but this is sort of my general idea. We're thinking about, just burying one end instead of, having a ramp, because it could just make it easier and have a lot less trouble than building a ramp. It'll of course take into consideration, the 2 inches that's needed per ADA. But everything you see here, this is very general first measurements that I came up with.
And Jack, just let me say thank you on behalf of people in Reading for doing your volunteer work. And I hope you keep that up for the rest of your life. On a personal note, next month will mark my 60th year of being an Eagle. And it's really come in very beneficial all my life. So good luck to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot.
Tony,
I have a question. Again, thanks for coming in and proposing this really good project. How big will your work crew be? How many other Boy Scouts will be out there helping you and dads?
So when I think of the project, I think of it really in 3 days. I think of it as a site prep, a cut, and then a cut day, and then an installation day. The site prep will be, me and a couple other friends going in, moving the logs that take up the space and sort of just putting them in a different spot. We're not gonna remove them, destroy them, anything like that. We're gonna try to preserve as much as we can. The cut day, that'll only take, I don't know, 8 to 10 scouts. We're not gonna really be looking for a lot of younger kids because it's power tools, it's dangerous. But we just had the cut for Charlie Mace's project. I'm sure you've heard of that, but we got his all cut done in an hour with 8 of us there, so I expect mine will be around the same. And then the installation, I don't know, I would say 10 to 12 again, maybe some more depending on, really how much stuff that we have and a later consideration of how long it's gonna take. But I don't think we're gonna have a group of 30 people out in the area. I think it'll be a relatively small number.
Okay, that's good, because when you have a lot of people in kind of this type of a sensitive space, you want to keep as few people from walking around and tamping down the mud and the vegetation and trampling what's there.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you keeping the work crew a little on the small side.
Yeah.
anybody else questions?
Thanks again for presenting and for taking this project on. It's always fun to see. What is the ADA requirement?
So if you want to pull up this one.
So this is just an accessible ramp. It's not gonna be ADA. It's in the woods. He doesn't have to meet those standards. And we can't meet those standards. So that term ADA, you might want to say accessible instead.
So what is this, the 30 by 8 inches? What is that? What are you trying to reach? What is your goal there?
I really going off of this picture that was given to me by the trail, or that I got from the Trails Committee, but it's really just making it safer so there's not a huge step up, because you don't need to go back to the picture, but when looking at the picture, there's really a big step, and it is dangerous because whether older people use or not, or younger kids, it does become a slippery area, and whether it rains or whatever. So by minimizing the amount that they have to go up, it'll just make it safer in general.
Yeah, I mean, that's my thought. My question is, I appreciate when we see these ramps where there's a really slow, gradual slope. So if there's no requirement that you're trying to meet, I don't know, when you think about it, trying to extend it even more than what you would think, because that would also help with Walters, so it's not hitting the ground too sharp. But that way you have maybe more of a 10% use. You have 15.5 degrees.
Yeah, so
Aim for like a 10% or something. So just so you have a nice, so it's general slope. It might extend your ramp, your
Mhm.
bridge, like another half foot to a foot. But
Yeah, again, this is again, basic measurements. I haven't gone in there. I haven't gone in and, sized it up exactly how it is, taken the dowels and string and lined it all up.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be some point in the near future. But this is again, just really basic beginning stuff that will be, it'll be more specific when I get it done.
Understood. But since there's no requirement, I would think about extending the slope
Okay,
a little bit more than that picture depicts.
okay.
And then, so when do you plan on removing the old, before or after? I'm asking because I think if you leave it there, you can move it off to the side. You might be able to use that to stand on, so you're not stepping on the bog.
Mhm.
Well, so it's like a staging area and the building thing. So you could use that to stage your materials, lay them on top, stand on it if you need to. And then once you finish the project, then you remove the old ramp after you're done, would be my suggestion.
Okay, yeah,
You have to see how it makes sense for you.
my answer to you would be, what would you recommend? And obviously you just.
That's what I would
So,
recommend. Yeah,
Yeah, definitely,
I don't know how the other commissioners think about
I will execute that.
My question was just, which trail are you gonna take to get into the forest? Where are you gonna be bringing your truck to with your lumber in it?
It'll be the Wood End Cemetery. There's the drive around out back. That's where all the cars will be that we need. And then we'll just carry it down the hill. I understand that there is sort of I wouldn't say dangerous, but there is a very slippery slope that does take it down. And as a troop, we do have a wagon, so we could be able to use that wagon to, bring stuff in to the forest as we need, but it really depends. But that's the spot where we'll be working, starting from.
And I presume you will leave the wagon on dry ground and not drag it through the mud.
That's what the old bridge could be used for. We'll take part of the section and we'll station the wagon on there and work out of that, or we can leave it on the dry trail that's there.
Okay. I think everybody who wanted has had a chance to ask a question. Do we have
Should I,
anything from Chuck?
sure, thank you. So Jack, I did mention this at the Trails Committee meeting. So you're gonna leave a gap in between the boards, about 3/4 of an inch? or
Yes.
5/8? We talked about something like that.
Yep.
And the only other question that I had was, have you set up with someone to take these old boardwalk sections away and dispose of?
So when you talk about disposing properly, what do you mean exactly? Because
So I'm assuming the picture we're looking at, that is going away and you're building something new.
Yeah.
Where is this existing boardwalk ending up?
in one of the dumpsters we have access to, if that's allowed.
Okay,
Because
that's,
we're not leaving it in the forest by any means or anything like that.
no, so other scouts have asked the DPW to pick it up. They've brought it to the roadway and they've picked it up and disposed of it for them.
Okay.
But you're gonna take care of this yourself, but it's not in the woods and it's not in the cemetery.
No.
It'll be taken.
No, it'll be all set.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. That's what I have.
All right, do we have a motion?
I will make a motion to approve Jack's Eagle Scout project in Bear Meadow.
I second that.
Walter Talbot approves.
Bill McCann's in favor.
Tony Rotalakis is in favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
I'm going in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And you'll let Chuck know when you're ready to start building it?
Yes. Yeah, we got a few more steps before we start the building. I will.
Okay,
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
Right.
Zero Small Lane is the next thing on the agenda, but that's already been continued to May 22nd, so we don't have to do anything about that. Zero Annette Lane is the next one. Can you let anyone in
Yeah, so
related to that?
is that Carlton Quinn's with you?
Yep, and Joe Orzel.
Okay.
And I will read the blurb. Continue the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by Peter Siebold pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant is proposing construction of a single-family dwelling with driveway and associated grading within the 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands, and the installation of an elevated boardwalk between Annette Lane and Applegate Lane that will cross a BVW. The boardwalk will be constructed on helical piers and will have minimal wetland impact. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass. 01867, and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year, Assessors Map 38, Lot 139, DEP file number 270-0780. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Andrew Pandolf with Vineyard Engineering, 17 Salem Street in Medford. We are the surveyors on the project. I'm here tonight with Mr. Peter Siebold, who's the applicant. And joining us on Zoom is Joe Orslow with Lucas Environmental. They are the wetlands scientists on the project.
Hello.
And Carlton Quinn with Sorrel Engineering. He is the civil engineer for the project.
Got a question about presenting the plans and whatnot on the screen. Is Joe or Carlton going to do that? Or do you want me to bring up something?
Chuck, if you could bring up, we could start with our proposed site plan. Start with that.
So was that wrapped in the response?
Yes, correct. Yep. Yep.
Oops. Pop up a second.
All right, great. We received some feedback from the commission at the meeting on January 10th. So we made some revisions to our plan. And those revisions include, we essentially eliminated the roadway extension that we had previously shown. So if you recall, we had a 30-foot long roadway extension extending the pavement of Annette Lane. What we've done is we've basically eliminated that, and we've reconfigured the driveway in a way that it just ties in to the existing pavement of Annette Lane itself. And this still allows for access by emergency vehicles, specifically a ladder truck, but it eliminates the need for a 30-foot roadway extension that extended all the way up to the 35-foot buffer zone. We've also moved the proposed retaining wall, which would be shown on the Somerville engineering plan. Next one down. Yep. So we moved the proposed retaining wall as out of the 35-foot no structure setback as much as possible. We weren't able to remove it completely from the 35-foot setback area, just because we needed to maintain that width of 19 feet for the drive, for the emergency vehicle access. So with this new configuration of the retaining wall, there's approximately 50 linear feet that is within the 35-foot setback. And the closest point to the wetland from the retaining wall is 31 feet. And that's sorry to make you jump around, Chuck, but if you go back up to our proposed site plan.
Just let me know if that's.
One more up, please. Thank you. We added a 42-inch high post and rail fence at the end of the existing pavement of Annette Lane, and kind of had it wrap up along the edge of the driveway. This was to prevent snow from being pushed towards the wetland when the road is plowed or the driveway is plowed. In association with that, we removed the proposed snow storage and pre-treatment areas that we had previously shown at the end of the 30-foot roadway extension. We extended the boardwalk to meet the existing pavement at Annette Lane and at Applegate Lane. So the boardwalk is now 200 feet long, but it's important to note that it's the same distance within the wetland, which was 92.4 feet. We had played around with moving the boardwalk further south towards the bottom of the page to try and get the boardwalk to match up with the end of the existing sidewalk on the southern side of Annette Lane. But if we were to do that and install the boardwalk in that location, that would require the removal of 6 trees, including a large oak near the corner with 10 Annette Lane. The boardwalk, as we're proposing it, only requires removal of 2 trees to construct it. We placed red X's over the trees that are proposed to be removed. And with this new driveway and road configuration, we reduced the number of trees to be removed from 32 down to 26. We also submitted a proposed planting plan. Chuck, if you want to go down one, if we have a moment. So we submitted a proposed planting plan, and this plan sort of outlines locations, types, and number of proposed trees and shrubs that can be planted to make up for these trees that need to be removed. And, you know, as we had mentioned in a previous meeting, the applicant is open to making a donation to the Conservation Commission Fund in lieu of replanting some or all of the trees if the commission is acceptable to that. And then finally, Lucas Environmental also prepared a letter discussing how this project meets the applicable performance standards in the Wetland Protection Act and the Reading bylaws. And Lucas Environmental also submitted a request for a variance for construction of the boardwalk within the 25-foot no disturb zone and within the wetland. And also a variance for construction of a portion of the retaining wall and driveway that's within the 35-foot no structure setback. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Joe Orzel of Lucas Environmental to discuss those items a little bit more in depth.
Yes, hi, this is Joe. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to briefly kind of touch on some points in the documents that Andrew had just mentioned. With regard to the initial response, the commission requested some additional detail on how the proposed project meets the performance standards for work in the buffer zone. And I don't know that the commission wants me to go into detail on this or not, but I thought I'd just kind of review some of the points in this. So it did point out that the regulations, as stated, the regulations in the bylaw are intended to prevent alteration of the resource area from activity within the buffer zone, and not actually necessarily preventing alteration of the buffer zone itself. So you look at how the impacts in the buffer zone could potentially impact the resource area. Under the performance standards, there's the zone of natural vegetation, which we have talked about. For this project, we're using 25 feet. The soils are well developed. It's a well vegetated site. I don't think there's any reason to require a greater than 25 feet in this location. Surface runoff is proposed on the lot and be collected within a gravel trench drain and infiltrated back into the soil. The project can be conditioned to prohibit the use of fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides within a specific distance from the wetland. It is often done in orders of conditions. There are also currently several invasive burning bush plants on the site, which the applicant is agreeable to removing by hand and monitoring for any subsequent reestablishment and removal. Within 35 feet, I think Andrew talked about the activities that are proposed at this time. We have removed some items. The only activities currently within 35 feet of the wetlands are the elevated boardwalk, as was mentioned, a portion of the retaining wall, and a portion of the edge of the driveway, which is right along the 35-foot no structure setback. No new building foundations are proposed within 35 feet. As was noted in the response letter, we had talked about the proposed snow storage area. That has been removed, as was described by Andrew. So that is no longer a consideration. Permanent markers are proposed as required under the bylaw performance standards, and those are shown on the site plan. There's no impact to public or private water supply. The area is mapped as within the Aquifer Protection District based on the Reading GIS maps. However, the order of resource area delineation that was issued for the site states that the property is not located within the Aquifer Protection District. That said, all surface water runoff on the site is being infiltrated and is size, and the infiltration is sized to meet the up to and including the 100-year storm event. No slopes are proposed that are steeper than 3 to 1. Project is designed to meet those requirements. As far as wildlife habitat, as stated in the regulations, the town accepts and adopts the current requirements and performance standards under the Wetlands Protection Act. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, the buffer zone itself, wildlife habitat is not within the buffer zone itself, is not protected. Again, it's wildlife habitat within the resource area that is protected. That said, we are proposing replanting vegetation within the 25-foot no disturb zone according to the Reading planting replacement schedule. The site plan that shows the plantings has them located in 3 general areas. And these are based on a site inspection that I conducted to try and evaluate where the existing shrub layer could accommodate additional plantings where it wasn't too dense, and also where the tree canopy was not extremely dense. The species that are proposed are primarily shade tolerant, so even with the shady conditions, they should be able to survive. And they are also other species which are already present on site for the most part. The planting plan that was proposed included 16 trees. Let's see my notes here. Hold on a second, please. 16 trees, including white pine, 1 white pine, 5 red oak, 3 yellow birch, 3 American hop hornbeam, and 2 red maple. 10 small trees, large shrubs, those being shed bush. And then we had proposed 33 shrubs split up between witch hazel, sweet pepper bush, and maple leaf viburnums. As Andrew had noted, the actual tree count, trees being cut, was subsequently reduced from 32 to 26, which would allow the number of shrubs to be reduced by about 15 shrubs to meet the tree replacement schedule, but at this point, we're not proposing any changes to the planting plan. And if the commission agrees to this plan, it would be, there'd be an overplanting above and beyond what would be required under the tree replacement schedule. We did also submit the variance request. And I think Andrew kind of touched on all those items already. As far as why the driveway it's required to be slightly at the 35-foot, and why the retaining wall is required to be within the outer edge of the 35-foot zone. I should note that's only, I think that at its maximum, the wall is about 30, at its closest, the wall is about 31 feet from the wetland, so it's not like a very large intrusion into the 35-foot zone. And also, as far as an alternative for that, grading, doing a grading in that area instead of a wall would require grading down into the 25-foot no disturb zone, which would be more of an impact. So I think we meet the requirements for the variance on those items. And I also believe that we meet all the performance standards under the bylaw regulations for work within the buffer zone. Now, if the commission has any specific questions, I'd be happy to address those.
Any members of the commission? Bill?
Yes, there appears to be, unless I'm misreading it, a misprint on page 2 based on what you just said. Page 2.
Excuse me,
Second
page
to
2.
last.
I'm sorry, excuse me, page 2.
Oh, page 2 of the variance. Sorry about that.
Okay, yeah.
Second to last paragraph, it says retaining wall is located. Oh, I see now. Got it. Nope, that's fine. I now see this text is consistent with what you just said. It has the 31-foot figure. I was looking at the one above it. The edge of the driveway is located approximately 35 to 35.5 feet from the wetland edge. So if true, I think your point being that doesn't necessarily raise a concern.
Right,
I also.
Excuse me. I think the edge of the driveway is right, just touches that 35-foot line. Whereas the wall does go into the into closer than 35 feet.
No, I appreciate the distinction. I also just wanted to say this document and the other, I appreciated the degree of detail. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Walter?
Yeah, this is a bit of a nitpick, so please bear with me. There's been objections, I know, by the people around the place about having the boardwalk in the first place. And I went back there the other day to check out what I would want to recommend. First, if you didn't cut down those 2 trees, can you make a snake-like shape to the boardwalk where it's meandering? And aesthetically, that would eliminate that long hallway feeling that the boardwalk has. I would not kill the project because of that. I'm just making a soft recommendation.
It's a possibility that we could look into. The only thing that we have to be concerned about is water and sewer lines, municipal water and sewer lines run through between Annette and Applegate. So we would just have to be cautious about, the sewer is pretty deep out there, but the water line is, my guess would be around 4 feet deep. So we would just have to be careful about crossing over that. Number one, so we don't damage it. Number two, if a municipal repair was ever needed, we wouldn't want to be right over that sewer or water line, because then the DPW, if whomever came out to fix it, would have to remove that section of boardwalk to access those utilities.
Any further questions, Walter? Okay, it looks like he's muted but shaking his head. I would like to see the list of plants that you're talking about planting, specific locations, consulting with Chuck when the time comes to actually plant them.
Okay, so yeah, we can do that on our plan. We have it's a little hard to see on the screen, but we have a key on the left side and it's color coded. Indicates, what each color is associated with, what type of species. And then if you then consult the plan, the dots on the plan are the color.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, I see that. I'm just concerned that when you get out to the woods, if you just put your dots in what looked like good spots, and then it turns out there's a perfectly good bush right where you're trying to plant another bush,
Understood.
I don't want to hold you to those exact locations on the map. I'd rather have Chuck consult with you in the field to make sure that you've picked
Absolutely.
good locations.
Understood, yeah.
And I personally would like, we talked about putting them around the edges to kind of protect the wetland, and that's great. But also any place where there's some construction, disturbed soil would also be a good place to have plants. So, sometimes at the end of a construction, you've got an awful lot of bare ground that needs to be repaired somehow. And my next question was, I don't see any sort of diagram on the plans I'm looking at today that show how you're going to protect the construction entrance from bringing mud from the hillside out onto a net lane. I presume you're coming and going up and down what will eventually be the driveway.
Yep, so we have shown on our site plan, we have a crushed stone entrance during construction.
Good, okay.
It's kind of faint, it's a little hard to see, but it basically goes at the end of a net lane, the end of the pavement of that lane, and will extend up into the driveway.
On the same plan that has the plants on it?
No, on the site plan, so the plan before that.
Maybe I only have these two and I don't have that. Okay, but as long as you've got it.
It would be on, go up to the first plan in the set, Chuck.
Is that crushed stone permanent or
No,
temporary?
that'll be removed after construction, so the red note right above the net lane is there, and then it's hard to see, but there's some faint up to the left, on your right, I guess, Chuck.
Yeah, it says crushed stone entrance during construction. I see
Right
that.
here, and then in gray, we have matching that looks like.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
And this
Got
can be
it.
extended a little bit, into the driveway. But yeah, this generator will be crushed under construction, removed following construction.
And after you remove the crushed stone, will you put down topsoil again or?
Yeah, part of it will be driveway, so, this is gonna be driveway here. And then this was kind of when, we had the 30-foot roadway extension, so probably wouldn't need to extend out this far. But in this general vicinity here, most of it will be driveway, but then we replace whatever we have to with topsoil.
Is there a detail on the construction entrance to just know how deep the thing will be placed? Is it 12 inches, 16 inches?
Provide one, do you have a general standard detail that you guys use or like to see?
I just don't want to see, well, yeah, why don't you propose one? I haven't seen the standard. I know that Mass Highway has 2 feet, and maybe you don't want to do that.
No.
That might be a little bit aggressive for your single-family house.
Yeah.
If you propose one, but also propose street sweeping every day, I think that would, get us to the point where we want to be.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm looking at the original topography and the proposed topography, and it looks like the peak of the hill goes up to 106 feet or possibly closer to 108. You can't really tell inside that topo line, and you're cutting it down to be flat at 103, correct?
I am gonna defer to Carlton Quinn, with Civil Engineering, who's on the call to discuss that, to answer that question.
So Carlton, my question about that really is, I know there's a lot of boulders up there at the top of that hill and how you're going to manage them. Are you bringing in large construction vehicles to deal with those boulders?
Yeah, we would generally handle it with larger construction equipment. If there was something we couldn't handle, we'd have to hammer it down into smaller pieces so that we could excavate it and remove it.
And generally, that would be like a pneumatic hammer that can attach to the arm of an excavator that would be there to excavate for the foundation anyway. So it would really just be swapping that out, swapping the bucket out for a pneumatic hammer. So it wouldn't be, you know, likely it would not be an extra piece of equipment. It would be the equipment that we have on site.
Okay. All right. And I did get a email from one of the neighbors and talking about the boardwalk, and there are people who have said that they don't really think they need to build the boardwalk. So I went and took a look, walked that path between the end of Colburn and the end of Deborah. And I also looked at it on the GIS. The neighbor to the north of this property is actually the town of Reading, and we own part of that path that comes in from Colburn, but it's private property on the far end. So even though the neighbors on the Deborah Drive end have landscaped very nicely to guide people to what part of their yard they're willing to have people walk on, that is not a protected right-of-way in any way. So I do think that it will be a public benefit to have a public right-of-way in the form of the boardwalk. So it's not a protected passageway further up, and the two neighbors on either side could easily put up tall chain link fences, and therefore there would no longer be a path up there. So I would propose that we keep the boardwalk in the plan. Any other members of the commission have comments?
Thanks for presenting all this and for the letter of variance and explaining everything. The big sticky point for me is the trees being removed and the planting plan. I'm not comfortable with just leaving it up to Chuck. I don't really know how to handle it in a way that makes me comfortable, but I would like to see the site with the trees proposed on the site personally. So I want to see them all marked off on site, you know, like you usually do, wrap them up with tape so I could walk on site and see which ones are being removed. This is unusual, but given with the situation, I would like to see where you plan on putting these 16 trees.
Well, the trees that have the red X on them are located by instrument survey. So that's where they are. And then in consultation with Lucas Environmental, that's how we came up with the locations for the proposed planting plants and the species that would go in those locations. Lucas has done a couple site walks out there. So, you know, it's more than an educated guess as to where they would go. It's not like we just threw dots on a plan.
Yeah, so I just want to see it. I want to be able to walk the site and see, okay, so this is where the tree's going to go. But you're saying I could do that with the plan?
Yeah, you can scale it off and.
Through the chair.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, and as was mentioned, you know, the plant isn't necessarily going to go exactly where the dot is. They're accurate areas as far as the general locations that are suitable for planting, and they're spaced appropriately on the planting plan. But you know, when you're out in the field, certainly could meet with Chuck, or the landscaper could meet with Chuck to locate the best location for each of those plants within those areas.
I guess I'm asking because I'm worried that it's nice on paper, but when you get there, it's not really reasonable.
Well, it is reasonable. I've been out to the site and I looked for areas where plantings could be done. And there are plots, you know, locations out there where I wouldn't recommend putting any plants in, but these general areas have minimal shrub cover. And the tree canopy is fairly open. So they're amenable to doing some plantings.
I would love to walk with you at the site to see where you plan on putting the trees.
So do you want to be in on the, like, when I said have Chuck go, do you want to also go at that time?
This is before we approve.
Okay, so you want to walk it now?
So I guess that's my request to you. I would love to walk Joe and get a feel for where these trees are gonna go.
Okay, I was sort of hoping we were going to close the meeting tonight.
We would respectfully request that that be put in as a condition and, close tonight rather than delay it another, couple weeks for a site plan, but that's just our 2 cents.
Yeah, my preference is to walk it first. It's up to the commissioners. My second question is considering this boardwalk. I actually think the boardwalk is a nice gesture. But I do wonder why you haven't considered moving it. You said pushing it south.
Yep.
Which I agree, we don't want to take down more trees. But what about pushing it north,
So
closer to the new house?
Yep, if we scroll down. So if we go north, we're gonna be over the sewer line. There's a sewer manhole here and a sewer manhole here. So the sewer and water utilities run here. And so we don't wanna cover those up in case they ever need to be replaced. If you ever have a water main break or a blockage in the sewer collapses, If we go further north than that, now, we're gonna have to come down, we can't block the driveway entrance, right? So we'd have to come over, then down, and it's a little more convoluted. We want to keep it in the, this right of way because this is going to be public property. And this is designed as a public benefit. In addition to that, the grade's a little bit more favorable here. Because we get kind of a slope coming down until you get into the wetland area and it flattens out. So really a straight shot down the middle is kind of the best orientation. With the marking out.
Can somebody from Zoom explain whether you could understand that or whether he needed to say it into the mic?
This is Joe. I was able to understand that.
Understood.
Good, okay. All right.
Just Andrew, so I understand now your hesitation of wanting to put the boardwalk to run into the new driveway. But the same is probably what people at Tenet might be thinking. They don't want it being put into their side of their driveway. I'm wondering why the boardwalk can't be, we can't go over the sewer lines. I understand that.
Yeah.
But I don't understand what's the problem with pushing it against the driveway of the new construction.
Well, this is just a straight shot through, right? So ease of construction is number one. Number two, the slope is a little bit more favorable. In terms of Tenet Lane, their driveway is further east on the other side of their house. We're not really blocking their driveway at all. It's to the right as you look at the page.
Just to point out, Andy, it looks to me like the boardwalk starts right next to the driveway of the house.
South of the driveway.
Yeah, but right next to it. They can't get any closer to the driveway. It's right there. They're not meeting the
Where is-
sidewalk down here. They're meeting the edge of the driveway.
Yeah, edge of the driveway, edge of the existing pavement of Annette Lane.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The only other alternative would be without having, folks walking across this individual's driveway, the owner's driveway, we'd have to come diagonal up along the driveway, cross over the water and sewer line here, and then go out. And then again, as we said, if we moved it south, we're removing 6 trees. If we go north with it, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 5 trees that kind of come into play. We'd have to see where exactly it falls. But, this was selected for a number of reasons. And another reason was installing the boardwalk here only results in the loss of 2 trees.
I'm gonna show you the street view, which will let you see the sidewalks right on the same side that they're proposing, at least on the same side with the utilities in the center. So the utilities are further to screen right. So they're not exactly coming out here.
And there's no sidewalk on that north side against that fence.
Yeah.
There is, yeah.
Is there a sidewalk over there?
There is, yeah.
So can we extend that sidewalk across the proposed driveway It's kind of what I'm asking, and you're saying there are other challenges to that, but my basic question is, can we extend that sidewalk and follow the boardwalk along that particular path?
We could, yeah, but we'd have to cross the utilities, we'd have to lose, by my estimation, right now, 5 trees as opposed to going straight through, and we have 2 trees that we'd lose.
Okay.
I live on both sides.
That's helpful. Sean. Can you go back to the boardwalk plan? When you get a chance? And you can't just, so I understand keeping it now where you have it. Has some logic to it, obviously, but can you get it down to that southern sidewalk? Just, it doesn't have to be this
There's a
aggressively
tree
linear.
there.
You can't even get it around at all?
Zoom in.
It would just be nice to get it attached to the driveway, to the sidewalk rather.
Yeah, Reading seems to have a problem with connecting sidewalks and walkways. Nice to get.
It's a pedestrian thing is the way I think about it. Make it fully, you're advocating this as a public benefit. It would make sense to me to try to get it to connect to the sidewalk rather than the street.
And that's the place, you remember, there was that big old oak tree that we talked about in the first meeting about trying to save. That was part of our push for not extending in that lane.
Right.
It was short, and so if you went right over, extended that sidewalk, basically, that's compromising that tree, especially the roots.
I vaguely remember the tree. I'd like to think you could design this boardwalk somehow so we can connect without taking down a tree. It seems a little, but I mean, this is things that could be resolved. It's not particular issues. Hold on.
Could the
the-
sidewalk take a sharp turn northwards to meet the boardwalk rather than the boardwalk coming down to meet the sidewalk? Make
That
kind of a-
connection, I would
an
like to
S
think that
curve there?
through. It's a condition.
You need the boardwalk there. Can that be a gravel path or a mulch path at some point, which makes it easier to save the trees and wind around and connect it? Because I think it's upland in the area we're talking about. So the jog could start on the boardwalk, but then as soon as you could hit some upland, gravel or mulch.
Well, I recall the last meeting, we talked about, extending the boardwalk to pavement to eliminate, foot traffic and things like that over earth, right? Whereas before what we had it shown was it ended at the 35-foot no disturb on either side. So it ended, boardwalk ended right here, right? And then this was just gonna be gravel or whatever, which were outside the buffer zone. Right? My recollection was that, the commission wanted to see what it would look like hitting the pavement, so that's why we extended it this way. So, Chuck, are you suggesting potentially removing this section of boardwalk and then having a gravel path come up like this? Is that, that's
Well, I'm
fine.
just trying to
Yeah,
blend all of the comments that I'm
Mhm.
hearing together,
Right.
and if it's not, if you can't make the boardwalk work, then
Yeah, we
make a
could-
gravel path.
we could make the gravel path work that came off of a south sidewalk and, kind of meandered up this way to the 35-foot no disturb line and then boardwalk ends. We could certainly do that.
Are you able to see where he was pointing?
I'm sorry.
That's right, where I think you said.
Yeah,
You also have the gravel top on here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And meet the boardwalk.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Okay, my biggest concern, and I'm no engineer, I just don't want water, okay? Right along here, there's a bunch of trees, big trees, okay? And this area is a gully, and I mentioned to you the last time, I'm concerned that even when you say that, you're building more up, there's a better chance gravel walk there, that I would think that there's could be more of a chance of having a gully here. Like, you're in the conservation department, you may think I don't know what I'm talking about, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I think if you're building up stuff here, I don't feel comfortable with that, because I'm already worried about these trees come down, but that does to water. And then if you have a gravel area, that could.
And I want to say one other thing. I just explained that. The other thing I'll say is I've lived there for 36, 37 years. I don't care about the boardwalk. Our child used to go through there all the time. We don't, you know, Charles grown up now. With all the issues about the boardwalk, and I don't think that, and I think part of it is conservation department, or you thinking it's a good idea. We're not asking for a boardwalk. And if, with all the problems you're talking about, and issues of pipes on this side, and now I don't like the idea of that there, I'd rather have you leave it the way it is. We'll do what we've done for 37 years.
Which involves walking through a wetland. And we're supposed to be protecting the wetland. So we're trying to make an improvement that protects the wetland.
Okay, and the wetland, if I, this is what I think the wetland comes down to. I think when you come down to somewhere around, I think the wetland starts around 60 feet down here, I think, okay? So then if you do something down here, stay away from up here, you've got all these issues with trees, everybody's concerned about water, you've got pipes that can be broken. And I know before you were talking about having it just down here, don't worry about what it looks like up here, everybody can get to it. I mean, they talked about landscaping and to get there, I mean, we've done it too. We don't care. If neighbors walk on our land to get there, we don't care. But we've already, that problem has been solved. You know, and it's not solved here because when you get over here, it is mushy, okay? So if they had something after about 60 or 70 feet, if you did something down here, and it doesn't, and I'm gonna guess it would be, I don't know, 30 feet, 40, I have no idea. But if you do something around here, years ago, I think I told you before, we had 2x8s, we walked with 2x8s. But if they had something down here, and they could even have signs, walk on ramp or something like that, that would solve the problem. And I think we have, it's a natural area that looks nice. Unless they chamfer it up here, I think it looks better if they just don't worry about the top of it. And I really don't want to have I mean, I don't know, they just mentioned it, but I don't want to have more traffic over here. I really am worried. My concern is water over here and what it's going to do.
Okay, Mr. Judge, if I could stop you, we get your point. Thank you very much. Try and get to the rest of the meeting.
All right, so,
Who was that guy?
He didn't introduce him.
oh, right. Mr. Judge, can you introduce yourself and say where you live?
I'm Bob Judge.
Bob Judge,
Bob Judge, 10 on that lane.
10 on that lane. The neighbor at the corner where you can see the house on the plot plan just south of Annette Lane. Okay, so it seems like we have reached a couple of decision points, and one decision point is what happens to the east end of this boardwalk. Does it go to the 25-foot line? Does it go to the 35-foot line? Does it go to the edge of the wetland flag line? Or does it connect right up to the street? Have we got any sort of consensus of what's the best choice?
I like the idea of limiting boardwalk and leaving it natural until we hit maybe that 25-foot area.
Okay, so Tony suggests 25-foot line would be the beginning of the boardwalk and make it a path beyond that.
Yeah, I think for long-term maintenance, that makes things a little bit easier. It reduces the amount of disturbance to vegetation that's there already. It avoids the utility issue that's been brought up.
But the rest of it still goes on the same route that it's currently drawn at.
Right, but over the wetland area.
Okay, would that be possible for you guys to do it that way?
Sure, and now just so I'm clear, are we talking about 25 foot on each side because that wetland wraps around? So would we be ending it at the 25-foot line on the east end and the 25-foot line on the west end?
I think probably going right up to Applegate Lane on the other end, not cutting it off on the west.
Okay.
That would be my suggestion, because the there's a lot less distance between the wetland line, the 25-foot line and the street over there. And it meets right up at the edge of the cul-de-sac there.
Okay.
Right. Is that-
Just,
Thinking to winter, I live on a cul-de-sac and I know what happens to the snow at the end of the cul-de-sac. It gets piled up and it gets pushed back several feet. If the boardwalk comes up to the edge of the cul-de-sac, it may be at risk for accelerated deterioration. All that snow being pushed onto it might damage the end of the boardwalk. Maybe it should be pulled back a little bit and not go right to the end of the cul-de-sac.
Okay,
Madam Chair, this is Bill McCants, member. I've had my hand up for a long time. Under state law, this is a hybrid meeting. And I also don't understand why, when we were still getting commissioner comments, you called on a member of the public. So I'm just confused.
I'm sorry, Bill, I could not see your hand up. The other person was in the screen and I only have this little tiny box. I can only see one person at a time. So I'm happy to call on you and I apologize that I didn't before. I didn't see your hand.
Thank you. First of all, this discussion is fine. My comments are to the applicant. I'm fine with where the boardwalk happens to be. I think it's well justified. I want to make a comment again, just to the applicant. Been on this commission for a year. I was on another commission for 3 years. It seems to me this is a very thorough and detailed plan, including with respect to plantings. It has been customary in these situations to have the conservation administrator, Chuck, as a condition, check out the plantings. There is a commissioner who has stated they actually want to go see this in person, which is their privilege. I have not seen such an approach in similar cases in my time on this commission. So I just wanted to let the applicant know that I am willing to vote on this matter tonight. We'll see how the whole commission feels, but I do not feel that should hold things up. That's my remark for now. Thank you.
So the question I was asking the commission was, what's our consensus on where the ends of the boardwalk should be? And it sounds like Bill is suggesting that he thinks the boardwalk should be exactly as drawn on the plan that we are seeing on the screen. Is that correct, Bill?
Unless there is a consensus for the extending the gravel pathway and so forth. I just want to say as a default, I don't see any problem with the current plan. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm not amenable to possible variations, but as a default, I am okay with the current plan. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, and given that it's 8:15 already, we need to make a decision on that before we can move on, and I'd like to get us to move on. Yes.
Did I miss public input or anything on this?
No.
Something, oh, okay, so you're gonna vote before. Okay.
Well, we're discussing this particular path right now.
Yeah, but we don't have to design it. I mean, I think that you need to make a decision. You need to have to come back for some more input. I mean, it's really been a long time on just a boardwalk.
Okay.
So,
Right.
And there's a lot of things you can do, including having some discussions out in the field. What works best. I don't know if you have to order anything or if that's going to be a problem. Maybe this is another thing that could be reviewed out in the field if needed. I think the boardwalk goes to the end of basically a dead end. And there's sidewalks on both sides, and it doesn't matter if you come out in the center of the road or the side of the road, there's not going to be a car there. And it may prevent a car from parking there. You know, so, and there's a railing or a guardrail there also. So it's been well thought out. Doesn't mean that a new spot isn't connecting to the path, to the existing sidewalk isn't a good idea. I think we talked about that out in the field. There was some additional trees that had to come down. But this might be a way to kind of get that. But again, there's gonna be other questions coming up about other things, and maybe you want to table this and,
Okay.
and then decide later
All right.
the situation.
So then Chuck, do you have more input before we open it to public comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, how wide's the boardwalk?
4 feet.
Feet, and for that planting plan, you said you were gonna do some vegetation removal for, and I was wondering if you were gonna monitor that for 3 years, which is typical with.
Yes.
Okay, those are my questions.
So all the commission members who wished to speak have had a chance?
I would just suggest that if we are going to continue this, that maybe we postpone public comment until we're, as a commissioner, are done hearing things. Instead of opening public comment tonight, if that's the direction you think this will go.
I think there are people who came tonight who wish to speak. I would like to give them a chance to speak before we decide what we're doing next, continue or close. Okay. Are you all set, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes down to how the commissioners feel about the planting plan.
Okay. All right. Okay, so those are questions we will need to address. Are there people from the general public who wanted to make comments tonight?
So raise hand, so you want to just let them know. So I'll just let them know. So if you're watching us tonight in Zoom, if you could just use the raise hand function to raise your hand and we'll get to you. It seems like we're going to start here with people that showed up at town hall, but we'll get to you. Just raise your hands. It's in the reaction button at the bottom of the screen.
Would you please come and stand at the podium and give your name and address?
Yes, my name is Kendra Cooper. I'm precinct eight,
One of
town
those
meeting member.
eaters behind you.
And I actually live downstream from this area where water pools near where this proposed project is. And neighbors have concerns, and several of the neighbors don't know how to Zoom, can't Zoom. And I'm here. I want to make sure, did you receive the email that I sent this afternoon?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, but I think I just wanted to kind of briefly go through it because it shows where we are as far as neighbors downstream. And often people are not, they do not receive the notices unless you're a direct abutter. And the route that we have, the water pools, springs which are near Martin Avenue and Spruce Road. So that's the source of all this water to begin with. But anyway, it's this proposed program, this proposed wooded swamp area where Annette and Applegate is. The water that is not absorbed by the trees, and we're really concerned about all the trees that would be removed, but also the idea of substituting with other trees in some other part of town doesn't solve our problem. Because our problem is that not just that the house and the driveway will be impervious surfaces, but it's also the calculating the amount of water that is absorbed by the trees. And we're concerned that that's not been considered. And that's why there are like 4 points here. The springs and the water route. Right now, the water comes from this area where it pools from the springs, and then it goes behind Deborah Drive. And then it comes under Deborah Drive and then perpendicular with houses and Covey Hill. And Covey Hill is, all of these houses are probably 1960s, 1970s construction. So they've been, this is a drainage system that's been in place. And it's worked generally because neighbors keep the ditches, the drainage ditch cleared. And only once has the community ever, since 1983, since I've been here, and only once has it ever been cleared out by the state, by the town. So we're a little hesitant to rely on something that's going to be maintained by the town. Any kind of gift isn't a gift if it ends up being a lot more work and cause problems. But anyway, I'll just very quickly go through this. And then it goes around some of the houses. This is the drainage ditch once again, which starts where we're talking right now with Applegate and Annette, that it then curves down behind 14 Cubby Hill and along Franklin Street on that side, and then underneath Franklin into the golf course. So that's where that water, if you were to float a little boat or a rubber ducky or something, you would see where it ends up. The major concern of the neighbors downstream is that this proposed construction of a single-family dwelling driveway and now a boardwalk will disturb wetlands and may cause more water to flow through the drainage ditch, causing flooding for downstream properties. And as I explained, the town has only cleaned the drainage ditch once in the 1980s and in the past 40 years. So property owners, they've been taking care of it. But we're concerned that if some disturbance occurs at the headwaters almost, if you want to call it that, that we're going to have a problem downstream. The boardwalk proposal also is an issue for people who have lived there a while. And actually it's been generations. There are sometimes 3 generations that are all living in the same area. And so we've certainly had time on our side as far as to see what has worked and what hasn't. And we would certainly notice a change if there were a change up there, because otherwise there hasn't really been a problem with the way it's worked. So this proposal of the boardwalk between Applegate and Annette to be constructed over the wetlands and gifted to the town to be made by the Trails Committee kind of flies in the face of what we know has actually happened, the realistic approach to what's going to happen if you put a boardwalk in. And we've, we're really kind of concerned that it might become an attractive nuisance. And there might be activity there that, like, I know you're concerned about people walking through wetlands, and people tend to walk, on the other end. And I know that you did observe it, and, and patterns change. But at the same time, it's really easier to just go on Spruce Road and go over that way and to get to the schools. So, I mean, generations of people have done that. And so we're concerned, it seems like it's unnecessary and it's fraught with problems once you put in a boardwalk like that. All right, and our fourth concern now, because we don't see, we've sort of looked at some of the engineering, we've looked at this map which is similar to what was up on the screen. And we're concerned that even if you substitute trees, even if you cut them down and put new ones, you and I aren't going to be alive long enough to be able to see this absorption really reach what it does now, the absorption of the trees. So it's not going to address the problems that we downstream are fearful of. So considering that the proposal removes, and involves the removal of the 32 plus trees, and I know the previous speaker mentioned, well, it's really more like 26, or, it really, it's in some ways splitting hairs, but I was there today. I took more pictures so I could see what does it look like with now that there's ice around and everything. And there are a lot of trees that are absorbing. And I can understand the square footage of the roof and creating a filtration system that's going to deal with the roof runoff and the driveway runoff, but I still don't feel like it's adequate and to be able to deal with the lack of the absorption by the trees that won't exist anymore. So, so anyway, neighbor concern is that the calculations to compensate for impervious areas to be occupied by the house, paved driveway, are inadequate to prevent flooding downstream. And so we've talked about it, various people, where we'd like to see an independent third party do a review to ensure that I read the engineering report, and that this is going to be adequate to prevent flooding for us, the existing people, so that it won't result in ultimately when we have a few days of rain that we're going to end up having a lot more water and have flooding, which we really haven't had since '83. So I'm just saying, again, that's all I can look back. But anyway,
Is
so
that the gist of it? Because
that's the gist of it.
Our time.
And we would appreciate, that you consider those of us downstream, and there are probably 15 or 20 of us downstream, which is not something normally that you look at. But we wanted to make sure that we could bring that into your attention. And
Thank you very much, Kendra.
with that. Yeah, well, anyway, food for thought. Right?
All right.
And when we'll have, if we have a skating rink, we'll call you is, okay? If it does fall, so we really want to prevent instead. Thank you.
Are there any other people?
Yeah, Eileen on the-
For public comment?
Yeah, Eileen is here from online. I'm just gonna unmute her and she can talk.
Right. Please introduce yourself and give your address, and also try to keep your remarks brief because we are running late.
Okay, thank you. Eileen Laterio. I'm actually a resident on Deborah Drive, and I'm also for 45 years, as a matter of fact. And I'm also a town meeting member for many cycles over the years. Our property line abuts an easement, half of which we share with the neighbor to my right. And in speaking with residents on Deborah Drive on both sides of our street, we are still very concerned about the water that's not probably going to be absorbed by the removal of 26 trees. We feel, we strongly feel that the water will increase, it'll travel downstream. To be perfectly honest with you, already there has been an increased overflow of water affecting our yards and those of our neighbors. Our backyard seems to be saturated with water at this point. We had noticed in our garage that water is seeping in. There's oversaturation. And this is affecting ours and other neighbors. And we can anticipate higher levels of water that is flowing downstream. In regard, just one comment to the proposal for a boardwalk. This may cause more water to flood onto our properties because, as someone previously mentioned, the planting of trees and shrubs and so on will take several years, and this is not an immediate solution to a problem we already have. So finally, to just wrap this up, we have serious concerns, the residents on Deborah Drive and Cubby Hill, myself included. We concur, with Mrs. Cooper's request for a third-party independent review to manage this overflow, to protect our property and avoid damage to our homes, to our yards, and those of our neighbors. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Laterio. Chuck, do we have anybody else with hands raised on Zoom?
I don't see anyone.
Okay, is there anybody else who's in the room who was waiting to talk? Mr. Judge? And just remember, you've spoken once already, so please try to keep it brief.
Subject, and this will be quick, because I brought it up the last meeting, and then you went to the site, and then I talked to you, and so I think you probably are aware what I was going to talk about. My concern is just right at the top, at the corner where my house, abuts going into the woods and all that. There's some really big trees there, which I think they're talking about taking down. And I think you're also building up the road on that side. And what I had said before, and again, I'm not an engineer or anything, I'm a concerned citizen, that could be building up a trough in that area for water for me. That's my concern. If the trees come down, and I don't know for sure, I think some trees are coming down there. If the trees come down, that's more water. And that's all I'm going to say, because I mentioned before, and I think that you did observe that area.
Mhm.
That's what I want to say. I just don't want to see that create a trough to have a lot of water for me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. The area we're talking about, a lot of people had dumped leaves from their yard at the end of Annette Lane. So that won't be happening anymore once there's somebody's driveway right there. And it looks to me from the plan like that clump of trees you're talking about, they are planning to take one down to make room for the proposed fire hydrant.
Right, but to keep nice big ones.
The other big ones are going to still be there.
Okay, and the road will be built up on that side too, I believe, which.
Not anymore. They're just putting the driveway at the far edge, the north side of Annette Lane.
So they're gonna just come down?
Yes, they're going to come down the hill and into Annette Lane. So the opposite side of the street from your house.
That's what you said, I think, earlier in this meeting.
If you want to come up and answer his question.
Yeah, so it won't be built up as we had proposed it before, and any grading that has to happen in that area will be done in such a way that water is kept on our property or within a net lane extension, as sort of it's graded now. The existing grade flows down into the wetland. Any grading that we would have to do in that driveway area would be done in such a way, but on the engineering plan, we have 2 catch basins in the driveway to catch any runoff there. And I think we went through at length last meeting about the full drainage study that was done by a Massachusetts professional engineer to the standards of care of the day. It was reviewed by engineers at the Town of Reading Engineering Department and returned with little to no comment. So we feel that it's sufficient. We're going to be capturing all water on site and infiltrating into the ground. There's not going to be any more runoff going into that drainage swale or anything like that. And unfortunately, we can't control the frequency at which the DPW cleans out those swales. So.
Okay, well, then you've changed estimates. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, Bill McCants has his hand up.
Yeah, I'd just like to respectfully remind the commission in terms of this proposal by the stakeholders that we always have to be mindful of the limits of our jurisdiction under state and local law. And some of the concerns expressed, without discounting the concerns that were expressed, seem to me to fall outside of the commission's jurisdiction. Just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
All right, where do we go from here? Oh, do you have a public comment?
Sure, yes.
Okay,
I'll be really quick.
thank you.
Joe McDonough, 47 Deborah Drive, a butter and also a recent 8 town meeting member. So I share a lot of Kendra's concerns. The only exception I have is I'm actually for public access. So Martha, what you pointed out, yes, I live on the Deborah Drive side. A lot of people use that. I think people would even walk more if we reopen the access on the net lane side. It'd be a natural loop, and you also have some people that don't even bother walking down that area because they don't want to walk all the way down Deborah Drive and around, to Colburn or Martin Road. Okay. So I think if there's a way to hopefully do it, minimize the amount of the boardwalk disruption, make it aesthetically, pleasing as possible. Like, I think that'd be a great benefit to the community. I think that's why the assistant town manager was for it, and also CBDC, jumped on the idea too. And I appreciate the applicant for being willing to support that. On the stormwater side, my only question there is still on the third-party review. Like if there could be a third-party review to finally put that water issue to bed. Because my understanding is that once this is approved, the house is built, there's no recourse for the neighborhood. It's a done deal. People live with the water, like my basement I had a month ago, right? And we don't know, is that from that house or is it from, we have more rain? I don't know. So, but thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to say something about the water. So the driveway and the roof of the house, all that surface area is infiltrated into a system, and it's held back it fills up, and within 72 hours, it's supposed to empty. So it takes that first flush out of the storm. So before, if I'm wrong, correct me now, before that surface water was hitting the ground and going right into the stream. But now anything on the driveway area or the roof area will be going into the ground immediately, and it has to filter through the ground to get into the stream. So there should be a delay. And if all the houses in this area were equipped with infiltration chambers for their roof runoff, that might be, something that would reduce some flooding in this area if there were any. Now, based on my experience, if there's something in the stream, you want to call DPW and let them know that location. They'll come out and take care of that and just make sure the water flows. But this is an improvement over the existing conditions, in my opinion, and from what I know about stormwater. So,
If I may add too, Chuck, so not only are we capturing the driveway and the house impervious area, we're also accounting for the conversion of the immediate area around the house from woods to grass. And we're doing that by that gravel trench that captures any surface water runoff that we capture in that trench and directed to those infiltration chambers. Now, the calculations that Carlton performed, that baked in the cake, so to speak, of those calculations are absorbent factors of trees. So it's taken into account that we're converting that area around the immediate part of the house from woods to grass, and it accounts for the surface water increase that you may see when a situation like that happens. And our design accounts for that and captures that water and puts it into those chambers in addition to the driveway and the house around.
Bill has his hand up.
Thank you, Chuck, and also the applicant for those points. I just want to sort of elaborate on what I was saying before about jurisdiction. So I hear comments again, this is not to discount the concerns of abutters and so on, but I hear comments about trees. We have a tree replacement policy. This applicant is representing that they will follow that policy. I've heard comments saying, well, if there's a house built there and a driveway built there, X will occur. We are not in the business of telling people they cannot build houses or driveways. We are in the business of protecting the wetlands, and we have to follow the law. So this proposal about having an independent expert come in, if there were an engineering argument that somehow the infiltration system and so forth wasn't up to snuff, that's something the Conservation Commission could consider. But that is not what I've heard here tonight. I've heard a more general concern about there's going to be a house built here, there's going to be a driveway built here, trees are going to be replaced, and it could cause flooding. Without discounting those concerns, that is what I am saying. That general concern is not within the commission's jurisdiction, as opposed to, say, a specific concern about the infiltration system, stormwater management, which I have not heard in the comments. Thank you.
All right, I think everyone has had a chance to speak once who wanted to, and I really think we need to move on. It's 8:40 and time is running, and we have more things to go. If you've already had a chance to speak, it's really, we need to move on tonight. Okay, so are we going to close, continue, what?
so just ask the commission if there's any more comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
Yep. So, commission members, do you have more comments, or is there somebody who can make a motion for us?
This is Brian. I'll make a motion to close the hearing on Zero Net.
I will second that.
Okay,
Walter Talbot in favor?
Bill McCants in favor?
I would like us in favor.
Andrew Gibbon, not in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. 5 yes, 1 no. And so the hearing is closed. Do we want to continue the discussion next week to make the order of conditions and all that stuff next meeting, or?
We have another vote that you should do first.
Yeah.
Vote to either accept or deny the variance, so we know, so the applicant knows where they're at.
Okay,
That would probably be the next
all right.
commission member.
Can somebody make a motion whether we accept or deny the variance?
This is Bill McCants. I'll make a motion to accept the variance as proposed.
Brian, I'll second it.
Walter Talbot's in favor?
Bill McCants in favor?
And I would like us in favor.
Andrew Gibbon, not in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. Okay, again, 5 yes, 1 no. Andy was the no vote on both of those votes. Okay, now what?
One more thing came up. I'm not sure we need to do this, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. I'm willing to be corrected, but there was a comment about making a donation into the conservation fund in lieu of trees. I'm not sure how that worked, because we didn't end up asking. Used to be 30 trees, now it's 26 trees. How many trees can't fit on the property that you're making that donation for the commission to plant somewhere else?
We would have to look and get you an exact number.
All right, so you would make a vote to accept whatever trees wouldn't fit on their property within that general spacing that we always agreed to accept the donation to the conservation fund to be used for tree purposes. That donation, I messed that up, and someone can straighten it out, but you understand what I'm saying? Because then the applicant will be forced to plant all the trees on the property.
All right, so any overflow that does not fit capacity that trees and shrubs could fit on the property would then go to a tree fund that's in the conservation fund,
No,
right?
not the tree fund.
Not the tree fund, the Conservation Commission fund. Okay,
For tree.
and you said for tree purposes?
For tree purposes.
Okay,
So I'll take
does
it.
somebody want to move that?
So this is Brian. I'll make a motion to accept the donation to the Conservation Fund for tree purposes to cover the gap between the trees taken down and the trees that can be placed.
This is Tony. I will second that.
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Bill McCann's in favor?
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Andrew Driven, not in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
North Moore in favor. All right, again, 5 yes, 1 no. Andrew, sorry.
Trees.
Okay,
So I would just do the same thing again, just ask the commission for a motion at this point. We're either closing or continuing.
so we already closed.
I mean, issuing or continuing.
Right.
This is Brian to make a motion to close the hearing on 0.
No, we already closed.
Sorry.
It's the small.
Are we gonna
We're gonna-
come up with the details of the notice of intent next week when we have a little more time, or are we gonna do?
So we have conditions. If I only have 3 conditions outside of our general conditions, okay? So condition, I get it right better. Final placement of the boardwalk will be determined in the field, the final, and there's a possibility that the path will stop at the 25-foot line and be gravel and meet up with the sidewalk. There'll be no pesticides on the property.
Tree placement with you or consulting.
Yeah, the first one was placement of the plants and trees with myself and Andrew Driven at that time. So that was the
We also mentioned daily street sweeping.
daily street sweeping. Yeah, update the operation and maintenance plan to include street sweeping and a detail on the construction access.
All right. I would say in that case, let's go for a motion to issue. Because we've already got our list.
Okay. In that case, this is Brian to make a motion to issue for 0 Netley.
This is Tony. I'll second that.
Walter Talbot's in favor of it.
Oh dear, Bill's frozen. Let's continue the vote and come back to Bill if he unfreezes.
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
What is the status of the boardwalk?
It's going to be determined in the field that last, from the 25-foot to a net lane, we're leaving the other side alone.
We haven't discussed, but can I make a friendly amendment that the boardwalk does not take down any trees?
It has to, no matter where you put it, it's gonna take something down. Two is, and the way we have it now, in the middle, there's 2 trees, and that's the lowest number of trees we can take down.
And I have to see it on the side. But you can't turn just.
Well, we
a little
talked
bit.
about the sewer lines, I mean, we can go over it in the field, we're happy to, before we do any construction, we're happy to go over it in the field.
We're in the field, it was either take down 6 trees or take down 2 trees. And we determined to bring it into the center of the road. I know, it was, everyone thought like, hey, wouldn't it make more sense? And so when we're out there,
When I was out there, I asked if we were gonna take down any trees and I was told no. So this isn't consistent, but that's, I'm fine with.
I disagree with that, we've had the amount of trees and identified on the plan what we're gonna take down.
You know, I know, but then we came to the public meeting and then we were told there was trees. But at the site, I was told there would be no trees.
we can look at the site. There might even be a difference.
It was, we were hoping to be able to wiggle it through between the trees.
I think you can.
I'm checking.
Point of order?
Ah, here comes Bill. All right, so we're in the middle of our vote.
I'm still. No.
Walter,
Am I-
we lost you, but, are you back? Can you vote now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I voted, but you all froze. I vote in favor.
Okay, great.
Andrew Driven in favor.
This is Brian Bell in favor.
Did you vote?
I voted in favor.
You were, okay, so I'm in favor, so 5 yes, 1 no. Andrew is the 1 no again. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you all neighbors for coming, and I do hope that your greatest fears are not realized. There we go, that's the word I wanted. Yeah, but
So I'd like to get those details before I start putting the plan together and it's just that,
Yeah, no problem. Have to by next week.
yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you all very much, appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Okay. So we're gonna go on to 252 and 262 Main Street, and that has been continued to February 28th. We just need a vote.
okay, we need to vote on that. Okay,
I would continue 252, 262 Main Street, the next meeting.
Brian, I say.
okay. Tony moved, Andy seconded. Walter, can you vote?
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Bill froze again.
Bill froze again.
In favor.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Brian Bell in favor.
Martha Moore in favor. And I think Bill voted yes just before he froze.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay, so 6-0 in favor of continuing 262 Main Street.
that's
We're now at
continued.
246 Walnut Street.
We just continued it. Just now, yeah.
Oh, is that what you were here for? The Main Street one? Sorry, they didn't come tonight.
It's interesting anyway.
I did learn some.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to call us to the next pizza party. I heard about that. Do you know what they're talking about? Like the squirrels bring the pizza over
Oh, right.
the parking lot next to them. I think it's squirrels.
Well, that explains why you weren't talking about the one we just closed.
It will be on the 28th. So our next meeting on the 28th, this will be on the agenda, yeah.
About raccoons that.
Because at last night's meeting, they had a conceptual plan and they're gonna put some more details in it. And for the Conservation Commission and others, so we'll be able to talk about this information with more.
Out there.
Well, since they continued, we can't really talk about the project, other than to say, I was talking about the pizza party and what they're gonna do, so they're just putting more details in it. But, no, they haven't changed it from that. That's the plan. We haven't got that plan yet. Yeah.
So the new plan might change the original plan of having somebody look at the wetlands?
No, that has happened. We haven't got,
And you just can't.
yeah.
You can't tell us, that's a surprise. Okay.
Well, we can't talk about the meeting at the meeting because they continued it. And we've done that already. So, yeah.
So come back on the 28th and you'll be closer to the beginning of the meeting because the one ahead of you has just closed.
Keep checking the website, so as soon as the thing comes in, as soon as that report comes in, that eval for the wetland line, it will be posted that day or the next day on the website. Yeah, if you're checking the website. Yeah.
Thank you. Good
Yeah.
night.
Thank you.
I couldn't hear you.
He wants,
Was there anything we're supposed to talk?
Well, it's not on the agenda, no. Yeah, maybe, if it was on the agenda, we could talk about it.
who's working the screen?
I have, yeah, I have Jeff.
Okay, I was like,
I let him into the meeting. I thought we were gonna go right on with.
Chuck's sitting there with his hands folded and the screen is doing all sorts
I've
of
done a
things.
lot better.
It's magic, magic.
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
That chicken.
While we wait for Brian to come back, let me read the opening blurb about 246 to 248 Walnut Street. All right, we still have a quorum. You still have Walter and Bill up there? Okay. Open the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by Stella Construction pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant is proposing construction of a 2-lot subdivision with an associated 150-foot paved private way partially within the riverfront area and buffer zone associated with a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office, 16 Lowell Street, Reading, Mass. 01867, and on the Conservation Division page under the project by year, Assessors Map 3, Lot 19, DEP file number 270-0781. And here he comes. Perfect timing, Brian.
That's me.
All right. So what are we planning to do here?
So we'll have Jeff give us an update. So Jeff, could you please,
Sure.
record, name and address?
My name is Jeffrey Brem with Meisner Brem Corporation, 142 Littleton Road, Westford, Mass., representing Stella Construction, my client. This is a continuation, I believe, from a month ago when we went over the plan with you, and there were some, I could update you on what we've done in the last month. Are you ready for that?
Yes, please.
So, to orient you again, this is the Route 128 exit ramp from 128 to 93 going north. This is the property here, lots 1 and shown as lots 1 and 2 proposed. It's at the end of the Walnut Street, which is off of South Street. I'm going to scroll down now. The next sheet is a bunch of note sheets. This is a locus map again. This is the existing conditions situation. Some of you walk the site. There's a river here. So we have riverfront, we have edge of BVW, and the plan has changed in a few different things. So the first part is the planning board. We continued the meeting from 2 days ago, the 12th, to March meeting because they really wanted to hear from you, the Conservation Commission. This is such a delicate property, being next to the riverfront and the wetlands. But one of the things that they wanted through the fire department was a full cul-de-sac, paved cul-de-sac, and a couple parking spaces here. So we had a meeting with Chuck and the planning staff, Andrew and Mary, and we did not want to do this, but it was kind of required by the fire department. That prompted that change. But as we were talking, you have my letter dated February 8th, and I'm going to go over that in a minute. That looks like this. So I don't know, Madam Chair, do you have copies of all those letters?
I think they were online. I didn't print them out.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll go through it a little bit more detailed. So this is, before we get into this sheet, this is the conservation plan right here. It is very full, as you can see. So I'm going to try to zoom up and
and it's a big plan, as you can see as well, try to explain some of the issues. So I won't reiterate where we're at before, but we have these buffers and setbacks, and we're meeting the town's 35-foot setback, 25-foot setback, and so forth. But there were some issues that were brought up, and I don't think anybody had a problem with that. It was really the problem with the 310 CMR 58-4, which I think Tony brought up that we were falling under, but he thought we should be falling under 310 CMR 58-5. This is what it looks like, this section here. We agree with him after the meeting, and we went back and looked. I talked to Chuck about it, and he is right. That changes a few things. And as we discussed with Chuck and Andrew and Mary of the town, we're proposing quite a significant change to some of our mitigation. So let me go through that with you. The first is that we have 71,030 square feet of riverfront area, and 10% of that is 7,103 square feet. And we are doing, you'll see a table on the plan to the right here, and you'll see where we are proposing 7,103 is allowed. We have 7,022 we're proposing. That is on purpose, it's not a coincidence that we're just under that. We struggled to get to that point, but we made it as it is required, as I think Tony said. But what is required also in 310 CMR 1058-5 is some kind of mitigation. And so in discussion with Chuck, we had proposed a bunch of mitigation before that was in this area. That area had to come out because of the pavement. So we're proposing a new mitigation plan. That's in several parts, I think 4. So let me go through them. The first is, if you remember on the site walk, this section right here that's shaded in or colored up with the cloud look right here, that is invasive species Japanese knotweed that's taken over that section of the slope. And obviously we agreed to take it out and take it out properly so it doesn't come back. And we talked about that. So that's the first mitigation, is to remove that Japanese knotweed, Philopia japicona, and get rid of it in a fashion that you know probably already that it has to be removed by hand, and then you have to carefully put the herbicide on each plant. We have a planting program, we are removing 20 trees, and we would like to plant a total of 8 little leaf lindens, 8 red maples, and 12 high bush blueberry. So that's the mitigation with the tree planting, meeting your standards. We meet 20 to 20. We're over that. We're also, this area right here, we're going to replicate and restore this area back. And that's where the high bush blueberries are going, and one of the trees, 1, 2, 3, 4 right here, the red maples. So we're trying to restore that area back to active riverfront area from the Japanese knotweed. Next is the donation. So this section with this big black line here, we're calling Parcel Z now. And if I could scroll up to the subdivision plan, this is really part of Chuck's idea too, is that we're going to donate that parcel, and the town owns some land next to it as well as one of the neighbors owns a vast majority of this wetland. And I think Chuck talked about potentially talking to him in the future. But this is the beginning of, well, it's the second step in donating this piece, Parcel Z, to the town. And then we're also providing an access to that through this access easement over Lot 2. That equals 28,824, which is a 4-to-1 ratio. And I think Tony will remember, I think you said it should be at least a 2-to-1 ratio. So we are meeting that, as well as the tree planting, the removal of the Japanese knotweed. Then lastly, Chuck mentioned not too far, and it's actually in my letter. Here's the site here. Our property is here next to the highway. Not too far upstream is the Sturgis Park, and they are doing some work on it. This is from a town's plan right here. And the idea is to cross it with a bridge that my client will pay for, and they're framers, they're builders, pretty easy for them to build a bridge. So I hope you're seeing this bridge. This is his sketch of what he's talking about for a bridge with a ramp up, bridge with some railings, and then back down. And that would be at some location to be determined between Chuck and some other committee, I think, that he's talking to. I'll let him talk about it. But that would be done as part of a voluntary condition of this project. So we took your comments at the last meeting to heart and made some significant changes, and we think are good changes for the project. The only negative, I think, is that we had to pave this whole thing, but it really doesn't affect anything because we're providing such good mitigation now. I try to do that quickly because I know you're running late on time.
Thank you. I'm curious why they wanted the parking spaces further up the street there.
Chuck, you were there. Well, they thought that if somebody, I don't know why they wanted the parking, but I guess this is a town-owned property and may have something in the future, and that they would have, it was easy for us to just provide 2 parking spaces, and that's what they wanted. It's actually outside the one small section of the property that's outside your jurisdiction, so.
Okay, so those parking spaces are for the general public to access the path to get to parcel Z.
Yeah,
Correct. There's nothing going on with parcel Z now, so it's more of a future thought.
yeah. Nothing's proposed, but putting in the foundation now.
Yep.
Okay. Any members of the commission have questions or comments? Chuck, is there anybody on Zoom?
No one had, so I know we'll have a comment possibly from an abutter, but
But no
commission members.
have their
Oh,
hands.
that's what you're asking?
Yeah,
I don't
I'm asking about commission members with hands up.
let me just check through. Don't see any commission members with their hands up.
Okay, Brian.
Yeah, I have actually one-ish. So you've talked about changing mitigation, restoration, what have you. I like that. Have you changed the building area at all? Different orientation, different size, different anything?
No, well, not since you've seen it. We've changed it a bunch of times since we went to planning board 3 months ago or last
right.
6 months ago. We did change it since we went to planning board, but we have not changed it since you've seen it.
So then can you go to 10 of 12? Is the one with the tabulation of alternative analysis impact on it?
This one. Yep.
Yeah. So can you explain to me why in alternative B, the previously developed area for the new plans is 2,600 square feet less than on the original plan we looked at? If you didn't change the building, how did the previously developed area?
Oh, sure. We cut down the work that we're working within the riverfront. We definitely cut that down.
No, but I'm talking about the previously developed, right? So there was some land that was developed to some extent in the past. That hasn't changed, right?
Some parts of it we're not gonna touch. Wait a minute, I see what you're saying, 26. You're saying between this plan and the previous plan?
Yeah, this one is 5997. And the first one we looked at that's in the town website is 8608.
Where are you looking?
No, he's right. He's right. I think there was a mistake in the previous plan. When I got into the, oh, yes, there was a mistake in the previous plan. We've fine-tuned these numbers. And then this one section right here that we're not working in, that we were working in the previously. So I'm just looking at.
Again,
right
previously
here.
developed means it's already been touched. So it doesn't have
Correct.
anything with the plans you have for the future. The plan, the area that was already disturbed is a given, right? That hasn't changed.
Right, but we're not doing any more work in it, I think is the difference. So this area right here was previously disturbed. We're not doing anything in it.
Okay, I'm clearly not articulating this well enough, but so you start out with a certain lot size and a certain square footage of that lot size has previously been affected. Now you're changing some of your plans for mitigation and what have you, but that original footprint can't change, didn't change. It is what it is, right?
Yes, I think we found a couple of mistakes and that was one of them in our tape tabulation before. So
Sorry, this is Andrew Driven. Do you have a map showing the area of disturbed land? Just the existing conditions?
yes, let me scroll up. I can't seem to shrink anymore. Sometimes I can't get to that lower button. I'm sorry. I can only hit the plus button. I don't know how to get it smaller, so I'm gonna be stuck at this size.
There should be a
It's-
minus button under the plus button.
Yeah, I know it is. I just can't get to, oh, there it is. Okay. I have to move
The
that.
head at the top of the-
There's a bar, my thing, the zoom bar was in the way. Okay, I was able to move the zoom bar. All right, previously disturbed the original plan. Right here. This is it here, and this is the existing disturbed line right there. So everything to that line right here, everything in this side of it, this line has been disturbed.
And has that line changed from plan to plan? So in other words, was the mistake?
No, I know what you're asking. I know what you're asking. I'm trying to figure out why. No, that line is right there. That line did not change. No, it did not.
So the line's the same, just the calculation of the area was incorrect?
Correct. Yeah, the line's exactly the same. There's no question. I didn't change the line.
Okay, without being overly obnoxious, how do we know that mistake was last time and not this time?
Because I could just tell you that I personally went over these calculations this time with incredibly difficult because I realized that I think Mr. Rodolakis was the one that brought it up, that I was using the wrong section of the riverfront and I needed to create some mitigation. So I spent a lot more effort calculating all these.
Interest of time, I'm fine with the plan. I like the other things you've done for the parcel Z and the bridge over in Sturgis and what have you. I just want you to double check it. So whatever number is in here, you're 1,000% positive it's the right number this time.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
If it is, then fine. That's the only question I had.
You got it. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else on the commission with questions?
Let me check.
No questions, but I would like to recognize the changes that were made. Thank you.
And my question is, it looks like you've added an infiltration chamber under the cul-de-sac to account for the excess water produced by extra pavement there. Is that correct?
Yeah, before, it's just exactly correct, Madam Chair. Before, where my hand is right now, that's where it was. And it kind of doubled in size or almost doubled in size, so that it was no way it was going to fit here anymore. So the test pit that we did is right where my hand is, so we're real close to where the test pit is. It was all sand and gravel. We're putting it under the pavement. We've submitted a request to engineering to make sure that this is okay with them, with the calculations. We haven't heard back because this is in the right of way now. But we presume that
You think that'll hold you up? Do you think engineering will ask you to put a test pit inside the chamber area?
No, it's very, very close. That part I don't have a problem with. I just got to make sure that it's in the right of way. Now, this is a private road to be privately maintained, so I don't think that there's going to be a problem. And we put chambers under pavements all the time.
Okay. And so that chamber got bigger because the pavement got bigger because of that giant bulge of cul-de-sac down there.
Correct, that none of us want. please
Mm.
talk to the fire department. We don't need that.
Yeah, we see that often, actually.
Hear
So
that.
before, the previous plan had a Y type of a turnaround, which is allowed, by the way, if you are talking to them at all or having a group meeting. The Y type turnaround is allowed in NFPA 1141. That's why we proposed it. But the fire chief is called the authority having jurisdiction, AHJ, and he makes that determination, period.
Okay. All right. Anybody else with comments? Chuck, how about you?
Sure, just some clarifying questions. So in lot 1, you showed an area that you're going to restore that had Japanese knotweed in it. Seems very close to the property. How are you going to keep that in its new natural state in perpetuity?
Well, that's why I planted the 3 maple trees and the high bush blueberry trees right there to kind of demarcate it. And so that the owners of the property would know where it was.
Yeah, that wasn't the edge I was worrying about. I was worrying the
Oh.
one that's right next. Yeah.
Oh, mitigation area 2, that one, that's adjacent to that one. Yeah, I don't, it's just a tiny little area, but I don't know how to, there's no Japanese knotweed here. It's just a disturbed area. So the good news is the Japanese knotweed wasn't over there. It's just, it was disturbed and we're restoring it back.
I know you don't want to do this, but can you just bring the plan up a bit so we can see it a little bit better? Yeah.
I could do it now. There you go. It's an extremely small area, as you can see.
Concerned that it was so close to the deck and there's not much yard there and it's a restored area. It's outside of our 25-foot line, but it maybe as a condition, we could consider some signage, so people know what that is, to demarcate that line. Because that looks to me like it would turn into lawn quickly.
Sure, it's on the side of a hill, so nobody really I mean, it's about 5 feet of contours in that little area, so.
Yeah, you can't, yeah, I guess you could tell if you look closely, but,
Yeah.
okay, well, that was my concern on that. And then, is there any area that you've removed the vegetation, the invasive vegetation that won't be covered by house? And we need to put a restriction on it to monitor it for 3 to 5 years, make sure that it doesn't go back?
Yes, mitigation area number 1.
Okay.
Which is this one right here.
Okay, so that's probably gonna be another condition.
Yep, that's fine.
What are you expecting will be the vegetation on that slope leading up to the neighbor's side yard? Where you've got the 5 contour lines crammed together so close.
Yeah, I don't think, right here, this would just be a grass slope, a fescue slope.
And a slope that steep is still mowable?
Yeah, I think that's 2 to 1. We do 2 to 1 often.
Okay.
I think it's also outside of our jurisdiction.
Okay.
It is. But I know the neighbor that's what obviously his concern is. We have a wall, as you see down here, we extended the wall, so it's along his whole property. We had to do that to make the cul-de-sac work.
And then
it's
the grass in between that turnaround and the cul-de-sac and the wall, there's a little
correct.
bubble there?
Yep.
All right. So Andy.
Thank you. Thanks for a lot of these changes. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this cul-de-sac as well. So it sounds like a lot of it's out of our jurisdiction, but are there trees that are being removed within our jurisdiction because of this cul-de-sac?
This one here was always removed. No, there wasn't. The good news is the cul-de-sac's in an area that was significantly disturbed.
Okay. Because I think I'm looking at trees and I see there's about 10 trees that are being removed by the cul-de-sac. It looks like maybe most of them aren't within our jurisdiction. I'm looking at
Can you zoom in on the picture a little bit more?
It's not this one. I think it's the map above, page above this. Or the one that shows all the trees being removed.
Ah,
Yeah, right there.
So where our jurisdiction is that line that you're on right now, right?
Right, exactly. Yep.
So there are like 8 trees within our jurisdiction that are being taken down because of this cul-de-sac? Or would they have been taken out anyway?
They were always taken down on the other plan as well, just the way the
Well,
loop
then we
of the
don't have
thing
much
works.
to push back against. All right, fair enough.
Sorry about that. I know it's not giving you the ammunition you need, but
And
this
how
is not
much
actually the plan,
is on
actually.
that
You want
plan?
to look at this plan right here. This plan, well, it doesn't show the cul-de-sac. So this plan here that you just looked at was the 3-lot plan. That's not in the same location anymore. So this is the plan that shows the trees, and it's just this one tree right here.
How much of the cul-de-sac has sidewalk on it?
None of it.
Good. Okay. So it's as small asphalt as we can possibly get.
You see the R equals 45 right there? That's the minimum. Yep.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Do we have anybody from the general public wanting to make comments?
It's, yeah, this guy, there was Ken on our screen, so it's gonna have to go to me. I asked an abutter to make the comments because I felt that he could make them better than myself, but I don't see anyone raising a hand. So the property owner that owns the abutting land, screen south, asked me or talked to me about stormwater, and he was wondering if there was a provision made to prevent the cul-de-sac water from going directly down the driveway of Lot 2.
Yeah, well, I have the 2 catch basins right here. That's where they are.
Well, outside of the catch basins, is there going to be a berm or something? I did notice that on another cul-de-sac that we have, Veterans Way, that there's just this berm at the end of everybody's driveway. Is there something like that that's going to be proposed, or it's not needed here?
Not needed because there's a curbing, that there is a Cape Cod curb berm that takes the flow from the whole roadway into that catch basin on that side. And on this side, see that dash line? That's the Cape Cod berm. Let me zoom up a little. That's the Cape Cod berm on there. And so that directs it, all this Cape Cod berm directs it into that catch basins. So there is potentially a tiny bit of flow here that's going to flow down the driveway, but it's minuscule.
We don't have to worry about that, and it's not going to cause erosion wherever it ends up jumping off the driveway.
It's just going to come off here, correct, and go down. Now this is 12 feet below the neighbor, if this is the neighbor you're talking about.
No, it's the guy that owns the 2 vacant, the 2
Oh,
lots.
okay, Dahlwood, yep.
So, that was the question. I did show him that you had like a double catch basin over there and you had a single one on the other side but I didn't know that there's no berm proposed on these. So I don't know if that's because it's not going to be accepted as a town road, but does the engineering department have any say on like the final layout as much as they would if it was going to be built to whatever road standards?
If you're talking about a spot grade there to raise the grade up before it goes back down, we could look into that, Chuck.
Well, just to make sure that nothing from the road goes into the lot and
I
vice.
have that on my own driveway, so I know what you're talking about. Just a little bit of a hump before it goes back down. Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah. All right. That was the question that I wanted to make sure I asked, and
We haven't asked any questions about construction entrance, stockpiling materials, all those things we usually ask. Are those shown on the plan somewhere?
Stockpiling materials, no, but they'll be in the cul-de-sac because there's no real loam that they're gonna get out of here. Because they've already disturbed most of it. The question you had about the construction entrance is a good one. I believe we have that always in our stormwater, SWIP. But I don't see it on this, it probably would be in the street plan right here. And it's not shown here. Okay, we could add that as a condition. We do a 50-foot stone construction entrance.
That work for you, Chuck? 50 foot?
50 foot, okay.
Okay, and my last question was, how big are the people in the houses gonna make their lawns, and where are the markers gonna be that show where the edge of the zone of natural vegetation is?
Yeah, that's, we've done that before with you. I would like that also to be a condition. We did not show them on the plan, but,
Did he freeze now?
Is that, are you asking about the, on the 25-foot line, are you asking for the granite bounds?
Yeah, that kind of thing.
That's on the order of conditions as a standard boilerplate.
Okay, so you're gonna put that in the order of conditions?
Yeah.
Okay.
did
All
I
right.
freeze there for a second? Am I still frozen?
You're not frozen, you did freeze. Chuck says he'll put the granite bounds in the order of conditions.
Very good. It said I was unstable, not me, the computer, so.
Yeah.
That's a
Got
story.
it. Okay,
Gonna be some I missed here, so any other conditions?
all right. Well, you've got all the things he told us about: removing knotweed, planting the trees and blueberries, donating town property, donating property to the town, access easement from the cul-de-sac and the bridge in Sturgis Park, right? Those are
Correct.
already in your notes, Chuck?
Yeah, but it was just the conditions. Did we cover all those? Street sweeping, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, that's probably needed.
Yeah. So street sweeping, gravel, construction entrance, stockpiling inside the area that will be the cul-de-sac. Anybody else have any conditions?
Is there gonna be a plan up?
We did the monitor the invasives and mitigation area #1 for 5 years.
Okay,
Chuck, is there gonna be a plan update to get the square footage correct?
I'll make sure the square footage gets corrected, and if it needs to be changed, I'll give you an updated plan.
What does that need to?
You should be as a condition, yes.
It could be a condition, or it could be something that
Yeah, I'm fine with you
yeah.
owning that.
You just have to get it, so what usually happens, you just have to get that to me before I release the order of conditions.
Understood, Chuck. We'll do it right away. I'm not at my office right now, I'm at home, but I have all those calculations in the office. I'll go through them tomorrow or Friday.
okay.
All right, so we do have a pretty hefty list of standard conditions, which are going to be added to the few we've come up with tonight. So just want to make sure you understand. Do you think, this is not a very big project, but the only other thing I could think about is some sort of environmental monitor, but we haven't been doing that on these smaller lots.
Yeah, I think we could get away without that this time.
Okay.
They do have a very clear limit of work line with mulch sock erosion control.
Yep. Well, the
Okay.
whole thing is surrounded by, yep.
Yeah, because that's the big thing we run into is people running past the limit of work for one reason or another. So you want to make sure you've clearly marked where the limit of work is, so you're not going down into the riverfront and wetland any further than it shows on the plans.
Understood. I understand that, and I know my clients are very well aware that this is a very sensitive project.
Yeah.
So to mark off the easement area, could we have some sort of granite bound in that area also? So I wouldn't have to ask the engineering surveyor to go out there and find out where that is.
Sure, I think four bounds are fine, one on each side, of the the lot line and then the easement line.
How do you feel about a sign that says public parking at the two parking spots?
Can
Or
we talk
maybe-
about that with Andrew?
Maybe you could, no, I didn't. It's just he wants
No,
something.
can we talk about that with planning board? Because it's kind of out of your jurisdiction anyway, but I know it's for public use, but I don't know if the client wants to have a big sign that says public parking there.
Yeah, but I'm wondering how it will be known in the future that that's okay. But yeah, let's talk it over with Andrew. I'm okay with not having that as part of our decision. That's
Okay,
it.
Thank you.
Brainstorming session is over. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, all right, so they're continued to March 12th at the planning board. So.
They're waiting for us to, yeah, they're waiting for us to finalize it also, or at least get a little bit closer. Doesn't mean we have to close, but
Right.
it seems like where this is going, I don't know what else.
Yeah.
You know, you might ask again, commission members, if there's anything else needed.
Do we have any other information we want? Anybody, Walter or Bill, any other information we need from him?
If this is still in front of planning, should we wait for planning or zoning to finish their review before we close?
It's, planning's waiting for us.
Oh, planning's waiting.
Yeah, so
And
on
their,
this one, yeah.
their next meeting is March 12th, so we could continue discussing this on February 28th. And it won't slow planning down at all. But I don't know that there's anything else we need to talk about. We've spent a long time on it tonight and the previous night. We could clear it off our plate.
The only two things, the planting plan isn't clear to me, again, where they're being proposed. And I would like the numbers to be just vetted properly before we close, would be my preference. That's fair.
Okay, so we want to ask for a plan that shows exactly where the blueberries, linden, and red maples are going to be?
No, we do show that.
So it's too hard for me to follow.
Can you
A
pull
separate
that
planting plan.
place up?
Oh, yeah, the lindens are over, or the red maples. I can make it clear. 1, 2, 3, 4 red maples there. The lindens are over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there's 7. 8 lindens over here. And then the blueberry bushes are right here.
Yeah, I'm not questioning if they're there. It's just hard for me to read. Or like a separate planting plan. It's a little less
Okay.
noise on it.
Yeah,
Is that-
maybe we'll do it as an exhibit, Chuck, so they could go with the order.
Is that, you know, they're on this plan, and I know that it's easier to read, but you're not asking to relocate them. Is that okay if he just sends that in? I can distribute it or put it on the website, and then you all see that?
Before the next meeting? Yeah, or you mean?
Well,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I'll have
have
it done on Monday, so.
that, so you could close, and then I wouldn't issue until that planting plan came in. Because you're not asking for different species, you're not asking for different locations. It's just like you're having a hard time seeing it. That's what you said.
I haven't had a chance to review it, to be honest, because it's hard for me to see. So
Okay.
I would
Um,
personally like to review the planting plan a little bit more.
Okay.
There was a lot that changed, so I didn't really focus on the trees. while
Okay.
they're being planted.
And since we have another meeting on the February 28th, we have the liberty or the privilege or whatever, the luxury of being able to have a short discussion about it on February 28th.
If the fellow commissioners want to just move on, I understand.
Yeah. I'm fine. And I think it could be a 15-minute conversation. It doesn't have to be a long conversation on February 28th, because that's really all we're looking at is the trees,
It's gonna
so,
be a 3-minute. Andy,
Yeah.
are you okay with the planting plan we got?
yeah. Okay. Are you all right with that, Jeff?
Good question, Madam Chair. I will be away and not available that night. So, I don't think there's gonna be a problem. let's go through this. If I get colorized, nice looking plan to Chuck on Monday and he puts it on the website and sends it around, I'm sure you'll be able to get me any comments or questions next week. And then I don't need to be there at the 28th, I don't think. If for some reason I do need to be there and you're really at a quandary, I would ask you to just continue it on the 28th. Because I have other people in my office, but this is my project now, so I really want to be here.
All right.
The only comment I have on the planting plan is that with the red maples to use the native species and not the horticultural varieties.
I said Acer rubrum, I believe.
Right, but if you go to some of the landscapers or supply stores, you might get a variety like.
Oh, like an October
over here,
flame or
yeah.
something. Yeah. Okay.
Sunset or whatever it is. Yeah, try and stick with the native variety.
Understood. Okay, I'll make sure I do that as well. Okay.
Great, thanks.
Okay. So this is what I'm hearing I need. I need a planting plan that's colorized. I need a construction entrance detail, if you can do that, since we're working on the plan. And then on that same plan, could you just put a note that you'll clean the street, sweep the street each day? And that'll do it. That's what I'm hearing anyways.
And to check the square footage. Got it.
Oh, that looks like check the square footage.
And what's our deadline to get back to you with comments that you can address before you leave for wherever you're going to be away?
Excellent question. Again, I'm leaving on the morning of the 22nd.
Okay.
Again, I have people in my office, so we're at the very end of this, but for me to prep somebody up to go to a meeting would be really difficult, so.
Okay, so we need to get our comments back to you before, say, the 20th, so you have a day to deal with them before you leave.
That sounds great. You're very accommodating. Appreciate it.
That work for you? Okay, so you need to get us whatever we need to see ASAP, so we have time to comment on them by the 20th.
Understood. I would promise tomorrow, but I know that I've got to be in Boston pretty much all day. And Friday, you guys, Chuck doesn't work, so I know it'll be Monday, so.
Monday's President's Day. Are you here?
Oh my God, President's Day. I'm working, but.
Yeah, Jeff, going to see my mom. I'll stop in at the place, all right?
Right.
Stop in at your office.
Well, aren't the plans all going to come electronically anyway?
They are.
Joking. Oh, yeah, we can,
He's joking.
we're done. We're just
Okay,
chatting, yeah.
all right,
Yeah,
so
we'll get
in
it.
that case,
I move to continue to the next meeting.
okay,
28th, yeah.
This is Brian, I second that.
Walter?
Walter Talbot's in favor.
Bill McCants in favor.
Tony Rodolakis in favor.
Andrew Gibbon in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor.
Martha Moore in favor, 600 in favor. All right, we won't see you on the 28th, but we'll have the meeting without you, huh? Does that work, Chuck?
Works fine. I think we're just closing the loop.
Okay,
Doesn't seem to be too many, as
Thank
long
you,
as
Jeff.
any
Good night.
comments, we should be good. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks, Jeff.
all right.
I think Jeff froze. It's a common theme here.
Oh, no, I see his head move.
Hmm.
Maybe not. Okay, moving on. It's time for old new business.
Stole our screen. Maybe I'll take his permissions away. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Finally worked.
Let's see if we can get out of here by 10. Anything on old new business, Chuck, or shall we go on to 51 Cross Street?
Yeah, let's go to 51 Cross Street quickly. And the only thing I could do is put up the town website.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys heard, but Chuck got contacted by the DEP saying that this person had been filling a pond in his backyard. And Chuck, Brian, and I went out to see what was going on in this backyard. And it's a very large mowed area with some overgrown, once were pine tree, Christmas tree farm trees, some of which have fallen and some of which have not fallen. And apparently the father-in-law of the owner dug out this pond. And so it's not a very big pond and had been using it for irrigating the Christmas tree farm, as far as I can tell. And we looked at it and it did look like there were some pieces of broken asphalt next to the edge of the water line, and some crumbled debris, stone kind of stuff, but also a lot of like pipes from the irrigation, a laundry basket, old pumps, stuff like that, but not that we could see evidence that someone was actively filling with a lot of stuff into this pond. There was just this one pile, and I don't know where pieces of broken asphalt came from, but there was a small pile, I don't know, the size of a sewer lid, maybe. So that's what we saw. Chuck took lots of pictures, but he can't get them up on his computer somehow.
Yeah, so the pictures are here. So I'll just, so I'm gonna put up the aerial photo here, but what we're asking, just so you know, is so DP asked me to go out there. We'll only have to convey what we saw. The homeowner has said that they will clean that up. But what I want to know is if this is a violation, it's an enforcement order, violation notice. How do you want to proceed from this point? Certain things have to happen. We'd have to let them know what we want done. We'd have to verify that it has happened. And this pond was frozen, so we really couldn't see what was going on in the pond. Possibly nothing's happening in the pond. I just wanted to say that we really couldn't do much investigation. So here's the picture. I'll screen out a little bit. This is the lot. You'll see that show up in a second. Come on. There you go. That's the lot. It used to be a tree farm. It's wide open. And the other thing that you'll notice is that other properties have, created lawn in very wet areas. It was very spongy, very wet in the back, but there are pines right in this area. They're falling over. They probably were planted. They probably weren't just volunteer growth. The rest of it is hardwood. So I would think, back in the day, there was some filling back in this area and to create the pond. So the pond right here has, I'm just going to move the highlighted area. The pond right here is on the property. This side of the pond is all the side casting from digging it out. There's a stream that connects that pond to this Walker's Brook, which is a tributary to the Saugus River, and it's a perennial stream. Right here, approximately about in this location here, there is, it looks like tailings from street work, from reclamation projects that was right in the water. They're basically with chunks of asphalt also in the water, but not a lot. If I had to describe it, I would say 2 to 3 5-gallon buckets from what I saw, but the entire pond is frozen with ice. And that included some chunks of asphalt. In this area here, there's a pile that stands about 3 foot high that looks like it's been there a while, except for the asphalt, which I can't understand where that came from because the guy's driveway looked in good shape. And there's some CMUs also mixed into that pile. And, what are those things called? Cinder blocks, yeah. Cinder blocks also. And so we asked for, I know that Brian had something, remove the cinder blocks, remove the asphalt. Basically, you're gonna take down this whole area, take the stuff out of the pond that's in the pond, and do a general cleanup everywhere and clean up the yard waste.
Right, so in the far backside corner to the right, house, back to the right behind the pond, they clearly have been dumping leaves there for most of my lifetime. And so it's very spongy. So essentially, first of all, we said, stop, don't add any more to it. He said, it's possible his landscaper does, he didn't know, but he would talk to them. I don't remember if we asked him to actually remove it.
Yeah, I don't think we did. I think it's,
I think we just said stop dumping.
Right.
But Chuck, I think after you got off our meeting, Chuck plotted 100 foot from the wetland line and figured out that there is part of his property he could put a compost pile on, that's on the dry side of the property that's more than 100 feet from the wetland line.
That's a question he asked when we were there. Didn't
Yep.
have the answer.
I would say certainly not official, and as a matter of fact, probably generous, because based on just being out there, the whole place is probably, the wetland line is probably off by a whole lot, but based on the aerial photo and where our jurisdiction would go based on the aerial photo, I drew it out with that. So there's opportunity right around these pine trees. So the question is, yes, there's some dumping out there. Yes, there was some debris in the pond, right on the edge. We asked them to clean it up. Is this a violation notice? Is this a enforcement order? Or is this just something we want to keep monitoring? He seems to be good enough to answer my emails and take my calls.
So my opinion would be the least of it, so a violation notice, because he has been responsive, because it's not extensive, because until we can see in the water, there's no evidence of any filling. There are those two piles near it, one right on the edge and one a few feet back. But he does seem the kind of person who would voluntarily clean up if asked. So my opinion would be that we give him that route first.
Yeah. Okay.
Bill, do you have a thought on this?
I have one more thing to say before we do that.
Okay.
We did talk to him about when to clean it up by, and we're talking about June-ish of next year.
Oh.
No,
3
next.
months from now.
I was this year, sorry.
Yeah.
What is it next year to me?
Yeah.
So yeah, of 24.
Yeah, I think Chuck and Brian had both either stated or implied this. I'm uncomfortable with us coming down hard on someone, first of all, who's been cooperative, but secondly, when we've got a frozen pond. Interesting that the state pointed this out, but I'd be cautious. So I would endorse Brian's suggestion.
I know, it is. I know, I was saying, why am I getting this call? Anyways, there was something, but it was so minuscule. Like, what do they have, drones now or something? But I'm not. So, okay, so the violation notice, clean out by June, any other conditions on that violation notice?
Oh, don't dump yard waste anymore.
Yeah. What about the different spot for the for a compost pile? Do you want to make that official?
Compost outside the 100-foot buffer as per GIS map.
Yeah.
Let the conservation agent and commission check out the property
in June.
June.
Yeah. Walter?
do you make a condition between now and June, after the ice is allegedly gone, for further inspection?
I think the best time to check it would be August, when the pond is low. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm like, how do you get it's like gravel. How do you get 3 or 4 buckets of gravel right on the edge of the pond? So that was curious.
Yeah, I would say I would prefer to see it before the vegetation all comes up. So May, June, and then possibly go back in August when the water has gone down again. I don't want to wait till August because by then we may be looking between lots. of
Definitely seeing it in
stems.
June.
Yeah. okay.
Definitely, but Walter asked before June, but I was just saying, I think after June would be another important
Yeah.
time to check.
Okay.
What do you think, Walter? You still want one in
April?
April? Yeah.
Well, I just don't know. The ice is obviously opaque, so is there more crap that you can see once the ice is gone?
I hope so. Yeah, well, I don't hope so, but the ice was preventing us from checking out the pond.
It's also,
I'm okay with June.
it's also unclear how clear the water will be when and if we can see it. It's a very still pond, as they say.
It probably goes way down. Okay. All right, I'll send out a violation notice. Thank you.
Before we move on, I feel like the last kid in class, but I'm looking at the aerial photo from Google and I don't see a pond. Where are,
51 Cross Street.
that's 51 Cross Street.
Okay.
Yeah, I was getting the same thing. I'm fine with putting
I think
this
it's there.
as a way back or something. That looks different, much different than the figure that.
Yeah,
Chuck
yeah,
had.
Chuck had a different view.
Google, huh?
And I checked the National Wetland Inventory and there was nothing coming up as a pond.
What do you call that? Ground truth? We did some ground truthing.
The ground truth project.
Yeah.
Saw it with your own eyes.
There, yeah. And I have pictures. I just can't get them to, I have pictures on my iPad if you want to check that out.
With algae, and that's why it's not showing up, but it's like right in.
There we go, down the rabbit hole.
Okay, shall we move on?
Let's move on.
It's 10 of 10.
Comfortable with
Okay.
your decision. Just feel left behind.
I'm with you.
Well, you can come on in June and check it out at that point and see the pond.
Okay, so we ready with the conditions? I mean, we need to vote, to make it
Yeah, just-
a violation. No?
Just vote that it does rise to the level of a violation and that you're asking me to send out a violation notice with 2 dates, June and August, for 2 site visits to verify that cleanups happen. And you can say, so moved.
So moved. This is Brian.
In a second.
Anybody willing to second?
I think Walter's almost about to say it.
Yeah, Walter Talbot will second.
All righty.
And how do you vote?
Walter Talbot approves.
Bill McCants in favor?
Anyone like is in favor?
Andrew Dribbett in favor.
I'm going in favor.
Martha Moore in favor, 6-0. Okay,
Okay, we don't have any bills, but I'm gonna just quickly get through the administrative report. So the Bear Meadow and Conservation Land Use Policy, we are putting a policy together because it's been noticed that more and more people are using Bear Meadow, and they're using with dogs, 6 to 7 dogs, 1 person, kind of dog walkers, things like that, but for other uses also. So we're going to put together a policy. It's in draft form by the chair and vice chair. And I'm going to post it, and then we're going to talk about what we want Bear Meadow to look like and where we're going to allow other work. So it's Bear Meadow and other conservation land. So if it's, let's say it's, for instance, dogs, we may restrict dogs at Bear Meadow, but we're going to allow them somewhere else. So, and then I think that fines would be something that should be discussed. So that's that. So when you see that up on the website under this title, you'll just know that it's going to be our dog policy. We don't have to go to town meeting. We don't have to go to the select board. This is our land. We can tell people what we want. And we can also enforce it with fines. Meadowbrook easement. Finally done.
Golf claps.
That's it. Finally done. I was at the select board Monday night and yep, Tuesday night, Tuesday night, I was there. Tuesday night, that was the shot that was heard around Reading. I was there and talked about the easement. That's all set and very happy. Very much appreciate Meadowbrook working with the town, working with the Trails Committee, Town Forest Committee, and Conservation Commission. Those guys went out of their way to see our vision. And at the end of the day, they still said yes. So great for everybody. Great for Mark Doxer too. He was very helpful. So that's it for me. And we're down to minutes.
All right, and thank you, Chuck, for all your work you did from the very beginning of that whole plan, parking lot and the easement and all that.
That whole thing's a book. That's a book, lot 5.
I'm not writing it.
Book called Lot
And
5.
I just very quickly, thank you, everyone, and I apologize, but I'm doing the best I can these days, but I do have to go. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
all
Bill.
we have left is voting on the minutes.
Yep.
All right. Okay. And we would have had that done by 10 o'clock. We still can. The only thing I wanted to put into the minutes was the reason why we had 2 votes that were 5-0-0 at the end of January 10th was because Bill was no longer there. So we need to acknowledge who was not voting by that time. Everything else I didn't have any issues with. And Brian, you had one small
I had
correction.
one on each of them, which was a misspelling of Tennyson.
Okay. Did anybody else have anything else we need to fix on the minutes or are we good?
I had a comment on January 24th, item 5 under 71 Tennyson. There's a statement that answered the question. Hadley neighbors had some concerns about if this is a wetland, where does it state it is a wetland? We answered that, and so I thought we should put that in the written response, in that the town has a map that serves as a guideline, but all wetlands have to be verified in the field, or something to that effect.
It's in the wetland in their own plans.
Right, yeah, it was flagged sometime in the past.
So what they heard from their neighbors, that it's not visible in GIS, Chuck explained.
Right, yeah. But it's not visible in the GS, but I guess.
Right. GIS is not the definitive source. That's, yeah.
And just one change to the January 24th, like you said, I left during Tennyson, so that explains why the votes changed to 5-0.
And that was in there.
Yeah.
It was at the very beginning of the minutes. It said that you had to leave early.
Oh, yeah. I see.
Right. So that, it said you had to leave early, but it didn't say that Bill had to leave early
Well,
at
I'm
the
in
other
there
one.
both at present and not present, I'm like a cat.
Okay, so I think the minutes need to reflect that Bill had to sign off at 10 minutes, 8 minutes of 10 or something there about 9:45 tonight. So he won't be here for the vote on the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve both the January 10th and January 24th minutes?
I move to approve both the January 10th and January 24th minutes.
Brian, I second that.
Okay, that was Tony moved, Brian seconded. Walter?
Walter Talbot in favor?
Tony Woodalakis in favor.
Andrew Gibbon in favor.
Randall in favor.
Martha Moore in favor, 5-0-0 to approve the minutes. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn or is there anything else that we need to do, Chuck?
I don't have any more notes left.
Shook his head, doesn't get notes.
Okay,
Before
I have one question for Martha.
yep.
Have you worked out who's going to attend what meetings? I had volunteered to attend the trail committee meeting.
I thought you volunteered to attend Town Forest.
Town Forest, okay, yeah. I should start doing that then.
Yes,
Good idea.
and I do not know when the next one is.
I will find out.
Okay, it will be on a Thursday.
Right, they moved it.
They moved it to Thursday. That's why I can no longer attend the town forest meetings. And we didn't have any takers for the other meeting Chuck was asking about, but if they meet on a day I can go, I'd be willing to go to
Are
the.
you talking about the CPDC? No, Community Preservation Act?
CPA meetings, yeah.
I don't know what's gonna happen with that. Ben Cares, is moved on. I think his last day is tomorrow.
Okay,
He was in charge of that, so I don't know what's going on, but
all right. Well, if you ever hear that they need somebody, since I'm no longer doing the town forest, I would be willing to take on the CPA if it's a day that I'm not already going to a different meeting.
Ben's going to Chelsea also.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right. Yes.
Can I have a brief SWAC item for the next meeting on the 28th?
Sure. Can you put that on the agenda, Chuck?
We're starting to finalize things.
Okay, we would love to hear a report on SWAC.
Well, it'll be really brief for the next one, but I want to kind of figure out how to move forward with you all.
Sounds good. All right, so maybe we should expect to have you on the March 15th agenda as well?
We have a SWAC meeting next week. I'll let you know after.
Okay. All right.
Maybe it's not anything soon.
So this is Brian. Make a motion to adjourn at 9:53.
Okay. 9:53, Brian most moves to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Oh. Show of hands, we all voted yes. Okay.
night, everyone.
Good night.
Night, Walter.
Right.
Good
Bye now.
night, Walter.